everybody? Welcome to not just another episode of Purple Insider presented by FanDuel, but the recap of our first day of Minnesota Vikings training camp. I walked back out on the field, heard there wasn't pads popping, but heard the sounds of football, people hitting football bags, coaches yelling at players, the wind blowing across about 90-degree heat. Oh, it was beautiful, beautiful sight. So here's what I have in store. We're going to run through what each of the quarterbacks did today, break down their performances, and then I've got additional notes, things we heard at the podium during the press conferences, some stuff that I talked to players about after practice, and then your questions, comments, thoughts, and feelings. If you want to jump in the comment section right now with whatever you want to know about what we saw. I will preface it with this. There's no pads yet. It's the very first day, but I will say that it was an eventful practice. Like, they did a lot. They ran a lot of passing plays, not that many run plays. So we did get a look at Kyler Murray and JJ McCarthy. So here is how I'm going to do this, because I wanted to be a little more scientific. So I've got every single throw written down on my notes app. That is not the most scientific way to talk about it, but just in case I'm forgetting throws and need to cross-reference them, created a little system for myself in the notes app to keep track. But I've also created this, which is the quarterback tracker for training camp. So I've got what the quarterbacks did in the practice in terms of completions, incompletions, and then the positive and routine and negative throws. And the reason that I did this was, of course, we want to keep track of completion percentage, but completion percentage really does not tell a very good story. For example, today, 2 of those incompletions by Kyler Murray were just straight up drops. He threw a little swing pass to Xavier Scott. He dropped it. He had a short throw. Maybe it was a check down, whatever, to Jamal Adams. He dropped it. It's like, okay, first day of camp, guys. But, the positive, negative, and routine throws do tell a story. So I included a couple of the routine throws in the incompletions for Kyler because they should have been completions. So here's what we had today. And then I have also created grids that show where each throw and where each positive and negative pass went to. And then, as I said, I've written down every single one so we could talk about, how it really looked out there. But the unofficial numbers for this day were about a 50-50 split of reps. Kyler went 10 for 17 with 3 positive throws, 12 routine throws, and 2 misses. And JJ McCarthy went 12 for 15 with 4 positive throws, 9 routine throws, and 2 misses. So here we'll start with Kyler Murray first. He did take the first reps, which, what that means, I'm not really sure. But this is what my grid looks like, and you may need to use your fingers to scroll in a little bit if you want to see them. But what I did was created 3 zones, so 0 to 9, 10 to 19, and 20 plus yards. Kyler Murray had more throws down the field today, and one of them was a really excellent deep throw, and there was also a negative deep throw where James Pierre intercepted an underthrown deep ball that seemed to wobble a little bit on Kyler Murray. So he had one that went down the field that was pretty good. It wasn't really a bomb, but it was one of those kind of deep outs that he hit perfectly to, I believe, Jawan Jennings, and then the deep ball was going toward Jordan Addison. Addison tried to turn around, step back, and make a play on it, but James Pierre honestly had an awesome interception, and right away, Pierre stands out to me as somebody that it looks like they trust. And then the intermediate stuff for Kyler Murray was mostly quite good today. Did have one negative throw over the middle that maybe could have been, I don't know if it could have been picked off, but it just wasn't a good throw and should have been a completion to his wide receiver. But he had one of the throws of the day today toward the middle of the field in the intermediate area to Jordan Addison, where it was a touch pass that was ever so perfectly right where he could rise up and make the grab. And then there was another one that was excellent on an out route to Justin Jefferson, where Jefferson was not taking a ton of reps today. We saw a lot of different receivers in and out, but there was a slight overthrow by Murray. I think that in a game, Justin Jefferson would have caught it, but I mean, he's not laying out today. He would have, I almost guarantee you, in a game on a deep ball that was an incompletion to Kyler Murray's left, that if it was there and I think it touched his fingers, I think he would have Superman dove out to grab it, but decided not to. So I put that one down as a routine throw where it wasn't a great throw. It wasn't a big plus, but it also, I'm not going to say it was negative when I think Jefferson might have caught it during the season, but he did have a nice out route pass to Jefferson that worked out. And then there was a lot of underneath stuff. And you see that from the numbers there, that there were 7, 10 routine passes for Kyler Murray that were underneath. There were some play actions under center. There were some checkdowns. And I think that one of his best moments of the day actually was a check down where you could very clearly see him going through it and processing quickly, where he caught the ball and it was one middle of the field over and then check down. And it was a completion. It wouldn't have gained 1,000,000 yards, but the point is just that is how you're going to play in Kevin O'Connell's offense, where you do have to get through these reads pretty quickly, and he was able to do it there. He also had 2 scrambles, and one of them may have been a sack, but it's Kyler Murray, so it may not have been a sack, but he did have 2 scrambles. So he mostly stayed in the pocket, threw the ball pretty accurately, pretty well, but it was not the practice from, I don't know, Johnny Unitas coming down and being in Kyler Murray's body, right? So I would say it was a routine, pretty solid practice for Kyler Murray overall. If we got to grade it every day, we might as well, right? I'd say it was a solid B for Murray. There were a few throws that were very impressive. There were a couple throws that you didn't love. Although, sometimes if you're throwing a deep ball that's 40 yards down the field and it gets picked off on a jump ball, it's a little different from like missing a read or throwing it right to the other team or something. So, but a solid day that didn't have a ton of high difficulty stuff for Kyler Murray. Looked mostly in command, mostly got rid of the football, but then had a couple of negative plays that you didn't love. So let's look at JJ McCarthy's grid. Now, he did not throw the ball down the field really at all. I don't believe. Now, these are estimates. So if he threw it 21 yards and I thought it was 17, I'm sorry. It's not going to be the most perfect grid of all time. But he, to my eye, did not throw any bombs. And in the intermediate areas, he had both the best and the worst throws of the day. Because he had a couple of lasers that were just really good passes. And I say laser not to say that he didn't put any touch on it. There was a very nice throw to Gavin Bartholomew, who I did want to talk about a little bit later, that was looking like it had some touch on it to the middle of the field. So several of his best throws were to the middle of the field. He had some outside throws, one to his left, one to his right, that were very accurate. And again, Jordan Addison had a really good day today, but they did involve quite a few wide receivers. There were ones to the edges from McCarthy where you see that arm strength play into it, where pushing it to the very far side of the field with good accuracy and good velocity is not always the easiest thing to do, but it shows you, there's the first round arm that JJ McCarthy has. So he had a few of those, but he also had a couple of negative ones. One where the pocket got a little muddy and it looked like his arm got hit and the ball just sort of fluttered out into nothing. There was another throw that was just straight up inaccurate into the intermediate areas. So it was hot or cold when he was throwing there. And then there was a lot of underneath stuff for both quarterbacks. And I counted up 8 routine throws under 10 yards for JJ McCarthy. So overall, I think probably a B or maybe a B plus day for JJ McCarthy. Unsurprisingly, I don't think that the quarterback competition ended today. And I know that may be a shock to some people, but it did not. I think that both quarterbacks who got about 50% of the snaps got off to a fairly good start to these practices. They worked a lot with the first and the second team. I don't believe anyone else took a rep at quarterback. If you're trying to really nitpick into it, maybe Kyler got a little more with the first team wide receivers, but that would be maybe looking too much into it as well. We saw Ty Felton get involved a little bit. And I'm sure if you have questions about like the deep depth wide receivers, like, okay, but those guys were not going to get involved right away on a day like today where they only had 90 minutes. Like there are rules to how this can start off. And so it was like an intense, here's the practice, get out there and go. And it was really first and second team only today. Did see Miles Price actually make one of the nice catches from JJ McCarthy as well. And Price had some during minicamp as well. And I'm interested if he continues to be a viable weapon at wide receiver, which he was in college, but last year didn't have any real chances for that. At the podium, if we're judging podiums as well, I will say this, that JJ McCarthy had, in my estimation, a very good press conference. Now, I'm not grading press conferences, okay? We're not going that far. That might be a little bit absurd. But, you know, earlier this offseason, McCarthy, I thought that his approach to his first press conference seemed a little on the defensive side, and there were a few quotes that came across a little bit salty from him and not his typical self. But today, I thought that McCarthy came across very professional, very locked in, very ready to go. And I think what happened was that he had some time to sit with it. He had his practices in minicamp, came out of that, and has taken the right approach to this. He seemed prepared today on the field. He seemed prepared for this press conference and came across as his typical JJ McCarthy self. So it may have taken some time and some work away from the facility to reckon with what has happened. You know, I'm sure for somebody his age, it was really difficult to take the gut punch of your team signing someone else. Everybody's saying you're not going to have any chance to be the starting quarterback, but you know, he survives minicamp and the decision is not made. And there were some reports coming out, even in OTAs and minicamp, that, hey, JJ might be cooked. This might be over by the end of minicamp. And here we are with a 50% split. So the fact that he's still in the conversation may also have influenced the attitude today, but I really thought that he gave mature answers and he was not hugging everybody, nor should he be. And he wasn't going deep into the depths of his psyche, which he doesn't need to be for me. But he did talk in depth about feeling like he has better command of the offense. So here's what he had to say.
Instinctually. 100%. Yes. And I feel at that point right now, honestly, just being able to have every play call click in my head and just seeing it like full clear picture and knowing my job each and every down, knowing the intent of each and every play call, it makes it a lot easier to have those instinctive moments when, you know, things break down, because that is football, and just go out there and be an athlete. But yeah, I feel really good where I'm at with that.
What makes you realize you're there? And the times, whether it's now or times previous in your career, where do you say, hey, I'm arrived at that point?
The clarity of mind on the field each and every snap. You know, there's not too many things where, you know, is this split right here? Is this formation right here? FIB, all this stuff. It's either right or wrong, and you know it like that. And just everything seems to be slowing down on the defensive side and being familiar with defensive structures and philosophies. And yeah.
And that all of that just comes along with time, right? That JJ McCarthy last year, you feel like you know the offense because he had been here throughout 2024, but there's something very different from knowing the offense at a chalkboard, even knowing the offense during practices and really being able to operate it during games. And when he mentioned the clarity of mind, I mean, you just think about as a quarterback, if you get up to the line of scrimmage and you have a lot of things swirling in your head, you're like, okay, what was that I was supposed to do? Like, there's no time for that. So I thought that his explanation there was very good about just seeing the game when he comes to the line of scrimmage better. And then he did spend a lot of time working this offseason in California. He mentioned working with Justin Jefferson, the other wide receivers, throughout the offseason. So I think if you're just taking away from what McCarthy said there, the first impression, how he performed in his first practice, that I would say it is somewhat evident, at least, of progress that he's made during the offseason, whether it's progress of maturing and dealing with the fact that he has to fight for his job because this is the National Football League and you don't just get handed your job when you don't perform at a certain level. And sometimes you got to beat somebody out for it to keep your position as quarterback one. He seemed to be comfortable with that. And he kept it short on some answers. Like, he was asked if it was going to be a fair competition. He just said 100% yeah, or something like that, or that was what I was told, or something like that. I think it was just yes, like it's going to be a fair competition. So he didn't go deep into his feelings about it. I don't need him to, but just came across as I'm ready to go and be professional and excited about football, and off we go. So Kyler also talked today at the podium, and he was asked about, his progress in terms of learning the offense.
Process of what? Of continue growing in the system and learning the system.
Yeah, just any chance I could get to, going over scripts, going over playbook, every day for the last 6 weeks. And then obviously, workouts and stuff, going out there and implementing what we've done. And just trying to familiarize myself, get more familiar with the verbiage and the footwork and all that stuff.
What's your comfort? Where do you think you are in that process?
I feel great. Really helped me going through OTAs for sure. Having done it once now, obviously this time it's about to be real. But I truly believe that going through OTAs has prepared me for what's to come.
Part of the system and trying to get into it and learn it. What are some of the toughest things about trying to become comfortable with the system?
For me, I think it's a reps thing. Continue to do it over and over again. Say it over and over again, and the more you do it, more you say it, more it comes natural, more it comes easier. And I think that's really the process for me. I think once all that settles down, for me, it's just playing football.
So we could talk a lot more about the quarterback position and where this is going to go and how it's going to be handled and all that sort of stuff. But at the end of day one, I could say this: it is definitively not resolved. And I think that both quarterbacks had perfectly fine days. Neither one of the guys lit it up. Neither one of them looked like they came back to school with a sophomore year, junior year type of blow up or whatever the meme is. But at very least, neither one of them looked lost or frustrated. The ball got to the wide receivers for the most part. The offense operated and they had a regular practice, and then we're going to do it again tomorrow. So there is your breakdown on the quarterbacks. And if you have any questions specifically, but both had some good throws, both had some mistakes, and we'll see where it goes tomorrow. And we'll make another grid tomorrow to break down exactly what happened. But I want to get to a couple other things from the press conferences. So Brian Flores also spoke today. Busy day out there with the press conferences, and he had an interesting answer when it came to the signing of Jamal Adams.
Had a lot of respect and a lot of admiration for Jamal and his game, going all the way back to college. Obviously a high draft pick, has had a lot of very, very productive years. As far as accolades and awards, he's picked those up as well. But just spending time with him, this is a football guy. He kind of lives and breathes the game. And there's a joy and a love for the game that's infectious. You can kind of feel that in 24 hours. Kind of threw him out there a little bit today. Did a nice job. Just has got some just general football knowledge, and understanding of concepts. It's in a lot of ways it's just going to be terminology. Hey, we had this conversation this morning. We call this. You guys call it this, and it's just kind of like speaking a new language.
There you go with Brian Flores. And where Jamal Adams fits in, if he fits in, will be something that we're going to be watching. He did take a few reps out there today, and, I don't know, like, how does a linebacker look with no pads out there? Fine, I guess. But it seems like there's going to be a serious chance for him to carve out a role. Also at the podium, Brian O'Neill, who was given an enormous extension, 4 years, $96 million. And I went back and looked, and my prediction, I did get the average annual value correct, right on the number of 26 million, but I thought it was going to be 3 years instead of 4. So I was very close to nailing his extension. But O'Neill, when he talks about himself, he's an offensive lineman. Those guys don't often give themselves too many pats in the back. And that was really the case today. I thought he had a really interesting answer when he was asked, what are you proud of from your career where you've just earned this another big contract extension and so forth? And he took it in a direction that I don't think any of us really expected him to go.
We've won one playoff game in 8 years, so I'm not going to sit here and be like, it's been fun, but like, we haven't done it. Like, we did a little bit. Like that doesn't really, that's not that fun, like that's not why you do it. Right. And so like, I want to be most proud of when I'm done here that we went on a couple runs and gave ourselves a chance at the big one and, turned this thing around and got over that proverbial hump. So, that's what I want to be most proud of when I'm done for sure.
So there's Brian O'Neill with his, I would say typical attitude that is who Brian O'Neill is, which is ultimate competitor, ultimate leader, and is not proud until the job is done. But I remember him saying maybe 2 years ago, I don't care if we run 50 times or pass 50 times. I just want us to win. And this is a commitment from Brian O'Neill and a belief that this organization can win. So it is on them to now make good for Brian O'Neill. And of course, they are a better team with him than without him. No question about that. Let's get to some additional training camp notes from day one. Number one is that Caleb Banks mixed in with the ones. At my angle, I wasn't able to tell you exactly how many times, but I definitely saw a very large human being out there enough to know he was mixing in with the first team on defense. And that's just a really positive sign for Caleb Banks. He didn't take a million reps. He wasn't out there for every single one. And they were rotating a lot of different people along the defensive line today, which I expect them to do. But we're going to see a lot of Jalen Redmond, of course. We're going to see a lot of Levi Drake Rodriguez, which we did today. And then Banks, just from a health perspective, that was really the biggest question. If he's 100%, if he's totally cleared, he's totally good to go, then he would be getting out there for actual full speed reps. And he was. So that's sort of marker number one, right? Marker number one is just be on the field at all. Marker number two would be on the field a lot. And then marker number three is when the pads come on, start to show those flashes. And marker number four would be start to show them every day. And if he does that by the end of training camp, then Caleb Banks is going to be in a pretty good position. Ty Ingram-Dawkins, I had a chance to talk one-on-one with Ty after practice. A delightful guy, very, well thought out in his answers. And I asked Ty about like this change of playing from kind of 3 technique and out to outside linebacker. And he said that he really designed his offseason around playing outside linebacker a lot more, which is a development worth keeping an eye on because we've all decided, including me, that, hey, you guys got to go out and get another outside linebacker. You got to go get somebody else, right? You got to get Von Miller. You got to get Leonard Floyd. You got to get somebody. But there is this world where they just love what they see from someone like Ty Ingram-Dawkins. Now, I think that's risky. I think they should get a veteran, but they drafted him last year. He got on the field. They liked some of the stuff that he did, and he is a terrific athlete. But you could tell, I asked him, I said, are you a little more slender? And he said, lean. I am more lean, that he has replaced some fat with some muscle this year in attempts to be ready to be more bendy, more quick, to play the outside linebacker position. And you can't help but look at him and see someone similar to Jihad Ward, who was here in 2024, of an outside linebacker who did move inside at times in pass rush situations. So he played a lot out there today. And I expect that he's going to be mixing in quite a bit throughout this training camp unless something changes at that position. I mentioned earlier that James Pierre did a lot today. Was cramping up a little bit after a really excellent interception on a Kyler Murray deep ball. I mean, this was a hard play because Murray put it up over the top and he was looking for Jordan Addison to kind of turn back and then reach up and grab it. And Pierre was able to read Jordan Addison, get his head all the way around and jump up and high point the ball. I mean, it was a really terrific play by James Pierre. And we saw Isaiah Rodgers, I think it was cramping. I can't say for sure, but usually if a guy goes over to the sideline and is not being treated or talked to at all, but he's also not getting back in, then it's not any kind of serious injury and is often just cramping, especially early in camp. So I'm going to make an assumption and we'll see what happens with Isaiah Rodgers tomorrow, but I'm assuming he'll be back out there practicing. But that meant James Pierre got out there a ton. We also saw Charles Demings play with the first team with Isaiah Rodgers over on the sideline. When they had a nickel package out there, Demings was getting a lot of work, and Zamiah Vaughn mixed in for at least a couple of plays as well. So if that gives us a little bit of an idea of what the depth chart at corner looks like, it seems that they trusted, at least on day one, Charles Demings to get out there a little bit. But James Pierre, I thought, looked like an NFL starting cornerback. Again, we're in day one, and performed like it. And I think that they want to use him a lot, that maybe they might even have Byron Murphy move into nickel more often and stuff like that. There was also, and I didn't write this down in the graphic, but there was a lot of rotating of safeties. It was Jay Ward, it was Theo Jackson, it was Jacoby Thomas. I thought it was a very positive day for the rookies. Jake Golday was out there. I also had a chance to talk to Jake after practice, but we saw kind of quite a bit of Jacoby Thomas, or at least a decent amount out there, with mixing in first team, and then Jay Ward is in there, and then Theo Jackson. So we talk about the quarterback battle, but the safety battle might be real, and we might want to keep track of just how much Jacoby Thomas, their third round draft pick, kind of has a chance to potentially force his hand to get on the field right away. Max Bredesen caught a pass. Damon Claiborne had a nice run, but there's no pads on, but Claiborne at least was mixing in and getting a handoff. But there was a lot of the draft class out there. And I mentioned talking to Jake Golday after practice. I asked Jake, I said, how did you prepare for multiple positions? And what Jake said was that he would learn every single position on the field, so he's learning the nose tackle, he's learning the safety in the playbook, memorizing all of it. And then he would, in his hometown, go out on a football field and be calling out the defense by himself. This must have looked deranged, but this is what you got to do, right? Calling out the defense by himself, as if he was the middle linebacker, as if he was the weak side linebacker, as if he was the outside linebacker. And so that's how Jake Golday has gotten ready to do this. So he's already kind of showing he's got the right approach, the right attitude to take on a defense that is going to be very multiple. But he was out there a lot today, got a lot of reps, and I'm interested to see where he goes in camp and if he can really carve out a role for himself. Second team offensive line, if you were curious, the first team starters were the ones that we would expect. But Ryan Vandemark was at left tackle, which is what I thought would happen, and then Caleb Tiernan at right tackle. And in the middle was Joe Huber, Michael Juergens, and Henry Bird. And I believe I had this as, when I did the 53, I believe I had this as the second unit for the 53, and that's what it looked like right away. And there's one more guy to highlight, which was Gavin Bartholomew. If we go back a year, Gavin Bartholomew was already out with a serious injury that he suffered during rookie minicamp. He looked really good today. He made a great catch on a throw from JJ McCarthy. He moved extremely well. You could see some of the athleticism. You could see the hands. So there is a potential opportunity for Gavin Bartholomew to carve out that tight end 3 role and be the next man up if TJ Hawkinson or Josh Oliver were to go down. They may end up, I'm sure they will, having a battle here with Jurosik, who was more of a blocker, Ben Jurosik for last year. They could keep 4, they could keep 3 in a practice squad that they elevate potentially if they want to do a little more running out of big personnel, or maybe that's going to be Bredesen. But Gavin Bartholomew right away is a guy to watch because this position is unclear after next year where it is going to go. So there you have it, the day one rundown. There will be more to talk about, I think, as the practices go along in terms of actual plays and things like that. Today was a lot of passing, and both quarterbacks did well. And but you can't really evaluate offensive line. You can't really evaluate defensive line or the running game in any way, shape, or form when they do not have pads. So we'll have a couple of days of those, and then we'll have the pads as well. So let me take a deep breath. There's the rundown. Now I'm going to get to your questions and comments and thoughts in just a second, but I do have a couple of sponsors to tell you about of this here program. The first being my friends at Brooklyn Betting. Folks, life is much different when you sleep well. I can certainly tell you that because my sleep has been vastly improved by my friends at Brooklyn Betting. And then, the key is when you buy something from Brooklyn Betting, you're looking for a longer term purchase. It's not just the first couple of days, but even though it's a cost-effective mattress, it's built for long-term durability right in the USA. So I'm looking forward to having this for a long, long time. It's not a mass-produced disposable mattress. This is made built to last. So we switched to what's called the Aurora Luxe mattress from Brooklyn Betting. The spine feels great. I feel supported, but we got the medium softness, so I can sink into it a little as well after a long day of covering a hot practice out there. So what I like about Brooklyn Betting is that it's not one size fit all. We got exactly what we wanted. And also there's a 120-night comfort trial. So if you're not comfortable, you can swap it or return the mattress hassle-free. That's brooklynbetting.com. And the promo code is PURPLE to get 30% off site-wide during their back-to-school sale. brooklynbetting.com and the promo code PURPLE. Also want to tell you about ZipRecruiter. I mean, you know this, that if you've had an experience at a restaurant or if you've done some work around your home, when somebody goes the extra mile for you, that is really, really great. And even if it's a small thing, it might not seem like much, but if someone takes an extra step, then that's important. So if you're hiring, what you want is great candidates that are willing to take an extra step. And with ZipRecruiter, you have a way to find out and get those people to stand out from the others by using their technology that ZipRecruiter has over at ZipRecruiter.com. So what you could do is go to ZipRecruiter.com, and they have a new feature that shows you the most interested, qualified candidates and the right people that are willing to go the extra mile to stand out. So candidates can tell you in their own words why they're interested in your job. So that's why ZipRecruiter, of course, is the #1 rated hiring site. So go to ZipRecruiter.com, meet great candidates there who will go the extra step. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/audio. That is ZipRecruiter.com/audio. All right, now to the chat. That is my email. Now it is to the chat. And I know that a lot of you have jumped in, so give me some time to work my way through all of your questions, comments, and thoughts. But an exciting day to have day 1 of Minnesota Vikings training camp. Oh, you know what I also need? It was a very busy day. Did not come up with a FanDuel question of the day. So maybe if you guys got a FanDuel question of the day, I would be very interested to hear it. You could throw that in the chat as well. How about this? For regular season rushing yards, the highest over-under is Derrick Henry, 1,225.5. Where do you think the Vikings will rank in rushing this year? How about that? Derrick Henry, 1,225. Where do you think the Vikings, how far will they be behind the Baltimore Ravens in terms of rushing? That's your FanDuel question of the day. Okay, on to the fan chat. We start out with Pizza Gary. Good to see you, Pizza Gary. Says, I don't know if I'm mentally prepared for Kyler Murray to be my quarterback for the next 6 years, which if I'm hoping for the best season, seems what we'll be looking at moving forward. I don't know if you can ever, Gary, look 6 years out into the future, but I do think that if Kyler Murray wins the job, we need to talk about it that way until he does. If he wins the job, then the bar is very high for him to get a contract with the Vikings. And if he does, I would look at much more like a Daniel Jones type of contract for Kyler Murray, where it would be surprising if they said, okay, you're our quarterback for the next 6 years because you won 10 games and had a top 9 offense or something. If you're the 9th ranked offense, I think they would still hedge to some extent, because if you don't go and win the Super Bowl or something, they win the Super Bowl, he can have as much money as he wants, and he can have a statue and whatever he needs if he wins a Super Bowl. But if he has a very good season, they fall short in the divisional round, I think you're still looking at a shorter term contract that would be manageable to keep a lot of the roster together, to keep building on. But I also think we're a little cart before the horse here. Like, he needs to play the first game. We need to see what it looks like. He needs to win the quarterback competition before we can really be saying, oh yeah, like, what's it going to be like if Kyler Murray is the long-term quarterback? Because as of right now, we haven't seen even enough practice to know if he's going to fit in this offense. There were several throws today where I was like, yep, that's the one. There were probably 3 or 4 where he just puts it so perfectly in a spot for Jordan Addison to go up and get it. And you go, yep, that's the one. Or he reads it out really quickly. And he had one of those throws that, if you remember, Carson Wentz made a few of these where the ball comes out well before the receiver is out of their break. And so he releases it and the receiver breaks and separates from the corner and then makes a wide open catch. You go, oh yeah, he hit a wide open receiver, but he threw him open. So I think that those things about Kyler, his accuracy and his ability to just throw the football with anticipation, could really fit well with Kevin O'Connell. But there's also a lot of other question marks that go along with it. So I don't think you have to mentally prepare yourself for 6 years, Gary, but I mean, you might have to prepare yourself for us still talking about this quarterback competition and showing grids and completions and, incompletions and stuff like that, right? I think that we will be doing that maybe for a couple weeks. So football, finally, I agree. Angel Dust says, your honest opinion on what Harrison Smith decides to do with his career, retires, et cetera. I think that if I'm just taking a guess at Harrison Smith, I think that he will not play this year. But I also think that there are some scenarios where he could change his mind. So it could be that, Brian Flores is calling him up every day saying, dude, we need you. We are Harrison Smith away from, he said something like he knows how much I love him or whatever. You can imagine that he's probably already had a bunch of texts. But if Harrison Smith doesn't come back after today, I thought this safety room has my attention, because if Jacoby Thomas makes an impression on them right away, then you have at least 4 guys here. I guess a total of 4 guys who one of them is proven and has played in the NFL before and is a pretty good player, Josh Metellus, and then 3 that are bringing along intrigue. We haven't seen a lot of Jay Ward in the NFL, but he was very good when he was in last year. And then drafting Jacoby Thomas, he gives you a potential playmaker, a downhill tackler. I know he missed some tackles, but not all missed tackles are the same. Some are because a guy plays with his hair on fire and then maybe overruns it. I thought that was some of his last year, but his interceptions, like playmaking, it's there for Jacoby Thomas. So do you have a possible ball hawk? I mean, we're going to see that play out throughout the summer, but I want to see that play out. They're a better team with Harrison Smith, of course, but I do want to see that play out. So I don't think he's going to end up coming back. I think he's going to call it a day. And, some of the players have kind of said, well, I don't know, I don't know what he's doing, but I also wouldn't be terribly shocked if they start out 5-2 and he comes back, or if he's told them, hey guys, I am coming back, but it's actually going to be on August 20th. So everything's on the table right now. I definitely would not be shocked by anything with Harrison Smith. Is this Mauricio? Says, I've seen other reporters say that they were even, but how is Murray going 2 for 7 and 7 on 7s? Which players say, I don't think he did. He didn't go 2 for 7 on 7 on 7s. That didn't happen. No, he completed his first 4 passes on 7 on 7s. So, yeah. But look, I mean, one is that there were a couple drops. So the completion percentage was lower for Kyler Murray, but there were a couple of drops that were very easy throws right into wide receivers' hands. So when we're tracking incompletions, there's that. Also, he had some very, very good throws and very good moments in the entire practice. I'm not going to say, I don't fundamentally agree with the idea that 7 on 7s are better. Okay. I know there was a former Viking analytic person who said that there's something about 7 on 7s being predictive, and okay, that's great. But I mean, it's going to be the whole picture, right? It's going to be both of those things. You should succeed in 7 on 7s, of which Kyler Murray was fine in 7 on 7s today. And you should also succeed in 11 on 11s. But 7 on 7 should be easier for the quarterback, and maybe that's part of the reason. But I also think that I just fundamentally have really trouble believing that something that happens in a practice like that, where there's no pass rush, is going to tell you the best predictor of what someone's going to be in the regular season. It just doesn't really pass the smell test. But no, I mean, I thought that I think everybody who watched it felt like it was a fine day for both quarterbacks, that McCarthy had a couple of really nice throws. The one to Bartholomew down the middle was good. There was one to Miles Price toward the outside that was a nice, strong throw. And then both guys, made some mistakes too, and were definitely not perfect. So I would give both of them a solid B for the first day, but this is the part. This is why we're trying to do a very detailed tracking of where I keep positive, negative, and I had 3 positive for Murray and 2 negative, and 4 positive for McCarthy and 2 negative. And Murray's may have been a little higher degree of difficulty because he had a deep throw down the field. So yeah, I mean, it was a very even day. That's the way that I think all of us would put it. Mama says, how is Bo Richter looking? Look, he's a part of it. There was Richter, there was Chaz Chambliss. Like, those guys were out there with the second team. I thought that Dallas Turner looked very prepared to play some football today. Not that he shouldn't, but he just looked like he was ready to go and was rushing the passer with a good deal of quickness. And I loved seeing Levi Drake Rodriguez, who gives everything he's got for every practice. He was getting off the line of scrimmage, and I think that there is a higher ceiling for him than we've seen so far. But there's a lot of, that's the interesting part about this defense, though, is even if you were kind of being a little facetious with that question, the interesting part of this defense is when you look out into practice today and you are talking about Richter and Chambliss and Ingram Dawkins and Levi Drake and Caleb Banks. Like, there's a lot of young players here. And I don't know if every one of them will become the next John Randall or Orlando Thomas or whatever else, right? But there's just a lot of players where you could see them essentially viewing this training camp as show me that you deserve to have a chance to be out there, because you're going to get a lot of reps doing it, as opposed to the past where, somebody like Bo Richter was not getting a ton of reps with the second team. But now he's getting almost every second team rep at outside linebacker, and they're going to have a chance to prove it. So I'll be watching close with those guys. And Chambliss is another one who is going to have a chance too. So that's a fascinating group on defense of younger players, where this team has been old quite a bit. Expecting to see a sunburn. Luckily, I had some coverage today. We've got kind of a little hut, luckily. But I'm pretty shiny from the sunscreen. How were your emotions today? I would say is pretty excited, walk out there, great energy and ready for football to happen. I mean, knowing that we're back and what a long off season it is, and knowing that we'll either be covering practices, preseason games, playoff games, Super Bowl from now until January, possibly February, it's a really good feeling. I love being able to come back here and tell you guys kind of what I found out today at CCO Performance Center, what I saw, what I was thinking about. And that first couple passes get going and you're like, all right, we're back. Can't wait to talk about this. Autumn Voyage, how does Claiborne look? I know running backs look great in no padded practices, but you think his burst allows him to get some touches this year, regardless of Mason and Jones's health? I do think that is possible, but it really comes down to details with him. So any rookie in this offense is going to have to know a lot of stuff. But if you are Kevin O'Connell, what you'd really like to see is Claiborne prove enough to you where you can have him, I don't mean to say like gadgety as if he's going to line up in the slot and run a, end around and throw it or something, but a gadgety player as in, all right, you've got a lead going, and if you get an explosive play, this game is over. Let's get, Damon Claiborne in there. Like maybe that's your potential mindset of, all right, we're running really well today. And we're averaging, I'm just sort of putting myself in KOC's shoes here. We're averaging 5.3 yards per carry. There's a lot of big holes, but we keep getting these 8-yard runs. We want a 50-yard run. Let's get Damon Claiborne in there. I would like to see that be his role right away, and then we'll see from there. But I also wouldn't be surprised if there was, a slower learning curve for somebody like that. It is very easy to see the burst. We were watching him today on one of his carries. It's just like, yep, there's some rockets in this guy's shoes, but he also has to have the timing of the play correct. He has to hit the right holes. Like, there's a reason why Aaron Jones still has a job. He's clearly not the fastest guy out there, but he's always going to be in the right spot. Running's a little bit more complicated than we make it seem to be. There's timing with your steps. There's timing with the offensive line. There's the details, even if he's not going to be a pass protector, like you have to be ready for, they usually call 2 plays in the huddle. That's why I mean, like at the beginning of the season, we might see a certain role, and then it starts to get carved out more and more as we go along. Snack, we'll just call you Snack. Did you notice a lot of young players running with the first team on defense? I did, yeah, but it's kind of like they were moving parts today because they did have 2 corners at one point out. So yeah, here's Charles Demings and here's Zamiah Vaughn just getting out there on the field. And I think that they like Zamiah Vaughn. I get that impression from what we saw last year. He didn't get a chance to play in games, spent the year on the practice squad, but I've just had that sense as an undrafted free agent with how much work they put into him last year. And then when it came to Charles Demings, he was somebody that stood out right away to me. His athleticism is astounding, and you could see it on the field. His elevation when he leaps up for a ball, or the smoothness in which he backpedals, like this is a very natural athlete. So those guys were getting out there, and then the rotation on the D-line where they were working a lot of different people in. You're not taking every single rep with Andrew Van Ginkel on the first day of training camp. So you would see Ty Ingram Dawkins out there a lot. And he's definitely, if we're creating an early watch list based on day one, it's like, all right, my eyes are on Charles Demings. My eyes are on Ty Ingram Dawkins and Jake Olday, who I don't know if he took first team reps at all, but was certainly, I'm trying to think if I saw him taking first teamers, but he was certainly out there quite a bit because, I think sometimes it's hard to tell when they're mixing and matching. Like, wait, was that the first team? Was that the second team? If the guys aren't taking every single snap, it's easier to tell when the practices get a little more intense. But Jake Olday got a lot of work today. And that's another guy who's on the watch list of like, is he going to carve out something for himself pretty quickly? Joker wants the 2027 quarterback pie chart. After one day of practice, I don't know that this is like the most accurate pie chart there is, but you'd probably go at the moment like 40% Kyler Murray, 20% JJ McCarthy, and maybe split the other 2, like a veteran and draft a quarterback. But maybe it should go the other way. Like maybe after one day of practice, we should say it's less than that for both of these quarterbacks and more for other guys they're going to draft. But we have no idea how it's going to play out. So that's like a baseline, that's like a baseline pie chart, but I don't know. There's a lot of ways you could go with that. Purple Kool-Aid, does Tiernan, what does he look like in person? Like an NFL, I assume you mean tackle or future guard. Oh yeah, tackle. You corrected there. Size wise, he certainly looks like a tackle. Yeah. I mean, I didn't get out a measuring tape and go, how long are Caleb Tiernan's arms? Like, I didn't do that. But from a pure size perspective of you're just seeing him out on the field playing right tackle, he looks like a tackle. But, I think with just Brian O'Neill signing this big extension, there's a reality to that, which is, you probably want to have him cross-trained to tackle and guard. Ryan Vandemark is going to be the backup left tackle and Tiernan the right tackle. And it's great to have 2 backup tackles. It most certainly is. But I also think that throughout the summer, they should start to get Tiernan ready to, if he has to play guard as well, because he has the athletic profile to play guard. He has the feet to play guard. I don't know about, like, does he have the grit to play guard? I don't know. I mean, maybe it's just it's a different job from tackle. But when you're talking about like first step and quickness and that kind of thing, I think that he could potentially be like an Ezra Cleveland, honestly, like a very good athlete who turns into be a good guard. But for now, he is playing the offensive tackle position. Purple Kool-Aid, quarterbacks seem to click with Addison early in camp. Quarterbacks seem to click with Addison pretty much all the time. I mean, that's why last year was so shocking that it did not work out for JJ McCarthy throwing to Jordan Addison. Because you go back to college and he turns Kenny Pickett into a first-round draft pick. And then he gets to the NFL and is great right away with Kirk Cousins. And then he's even pretty good with other quarterbacks that came in like Nick Mullins. And he was really good when he got back from the early injury with Sam Darnold in 2024. Like, he's always pretty good. And today, I think it showed how prepared he was. And this is why, like, the Vikings, no matter how many times we talk about it with the off-field stuff and everything else, this is why they view him as a huge piece of this operation, and they would love to have him here long-term, is because when you see him make a catch like he did today, the one where Kyler Murray kind of put it up to him in the middle of the field and he went up and got it, like, not everybody makes that catch. His hands are so strong and he is so good at tracking the football that, yeah, I mean, he's a guy that pretty much always in training camp looks awesome. Paul says, my question isn't who wins the quarterback competition, it's what happens to the guy that loses. Neither one of them would stick around as a backup. Surely Wentz will be QB2. Well, JJ McCarthy doesn't have an option. I mean, neither does Kyler Murray. They're both under contract, so it's not like they could just say, I'm out. I mean, I guess they could pull a George Costanza and, I don't know, try to get their way out of there. But, I think that there's two different answers for that. If Kyler Murray loses the quarterback competition, the Vikings would probably look to trade him at some point, because I don't think he profiles at all like a backup quarterback. Usually what you want from your backup quarterback is for that guy to be super solid when it comes to helping your starter. You want him locked in with the preparation, and, they make the clipboard jokes and everything else, but that guy could be helpful on the sideline. I remember when Teddy Bridgewater was a backup to Case Keenum, that Case told us that, Teddy was over there with the iPad or whatever it is, the Microsoft Surface, and he was identifying stuff with the defense and telling Case Keenum, this is what I'm seeing. And it resulted, I think, in a big, long touchdown or something. I mean, that's what backup quarterbacks are supposed to do. They're supposed to be there for you as the starter and then be ready at any time. That just doesn't feel like with Kyler Murray's personality, it fits at all. It's like, this guy's the number one pick in the draft, has been a Pro Bowler. He has played good seasons with the Arizona Cardinals. Like, is he really going to be at all willing to help? I mean, I just have a tough time seeing it. But with JJ McCarthy, I see it totally differently. I would not even consider trading JJ McCarthy at the beginning of the season unless someone came in with, I don't know, first round draft pick and he loses the competition. Maybe you think about it, but that's not going to happen. So I would not want to give away JJ McCarthy before I saw the whole picture. Like, if I'm Nolan Teasley, that's my big thing, is I want to see whole pictures. I don't just want to see, a quarterback competition that he didn't win. Well, Josh Allen did not win his first quarterback competition against, it's a trivia question. If you get it right, I'm very impressed. I'll pause for a second for those who may have remembered the quarterback competition 2018 Buffalo. It was Nathan Peterman. That's who he lost a quarterback competition to. So it doesn't really tell you everything that's going to happen in the season, right? So if he doesn't win the competition, I would have him as, depending on how he looks, QB2 easily. I mean, if he looks like he did today, yeah, okay, QB2. He looked prepared. He threw the ball well. You're QB2. And Carson Wentz is here for, emotional encouragement. But if Kyler Murray were to go out during the season, if he were to miss 5 games or something, you'd want JJ McCarthy starting. And I don't think it's even that bold if you were to say, is he really going to start 17 games? Like, that's hard to do. Did it in 2024, but it's hard to do. It's hard to start a full season for any quarterback these days with the number of games you play, the injuries that happen and stuff like that, how fast the game is, how violent the D-lines are. Like, much better to have it. And there's a scenario where you could have Kyler Murray win the job, and then 3 weeks into the season, he gets hurt. And, JJ McCarthy's playing the next 5 to 7 games or something. And if he's good, he's just staying as the starter. Like, there's so many potential chances for McCarthy to get on the field if he doesn't win the job that I would not be thinking about trading him away. Jerry says, hopefully JJ and Kyler can live in that 10 to 19 zone. I want JJ to improve enough to win the job, but I'm not going to root against Kyler. Jerry, you sound like a reasonable human being. What are you doing in the comment? No, I'm just kidding. This is actually the best. I really think it's the best comment section on earth. I think it is the most rational, which is really great. And Jerry, you fit right in. Hope to see you more often during this training camp, because that's a reasonable comment. There's a lot of people that want to still be on the JJ McCarthy bandwagon and want to believe that he can still be the starting quarterback and hope for that result. And you know what? You're not a crazy person if you do, because it's not like JJ McCarthy hasn't tried. It's not like he said, trade me. It's not like he has said, I'm embarrassed to be a Viking, or done anything off the field or anything. Like, there hasn't been any of that stuff. He just didn't perform very well in his first chance ever as being a starting quarterback. And because the team is in the situation they're in, they had to go out and get someone who has a baseline level of performance in their past. They had to. There was no way that you could just, with this group of players and this coaching staff and the highest paid defensive coordinator in the NFL, just roll the dice. Now, could you have done it if you were the Raiders? Sure. Could you have done it if you're the Jets? Absolutely. Could you have done it if you're the Cardinals? Yeah, for sure. Because there's no expectations. But when you have expectations and you have pressure, you have to have someone who you know can play and win some games in the NFL. And we'll go back to that stat about Kyler being 13-17 over the last 3 years, and Arizona, when he doesn't play, is 2-19. But just the point being that JJ McCarthy can improve and not win the job. And that doesn't mean that like you're wrong for thinking that McCarthy could still make it happen at some point. Like, the rookie contract has broken everyone's brain, because it feels like if it's not decided by today, it's pretty much over and he's got to go, to another team and whatever, right? It doesn't have to happen that way, because you have the whole rookie contract and then you can decide and figure this out. And we're not there yet. It's year 3. There's 2 more years, this year, next year, on the rookie contract. You've got a 5th-year option potential. Like, there is still time for JJ McCarthy to develop and see where you're at the end of the season, even if he doesn't win the job. Hans says, my guess is any decent quarterback would say throwing is easy. Throwing where and when, this is why quarterback analysis is so murky. I totally agree with you, Hans. That's exactly right, is that, when we saw someone like Kyler Murray throw today, where it was a great anticipation throw, and suddenly the wide receiver arrives wide open, and you go, yeah, that's what it means to throw a wide receiver open. And that looks like a super accurate throw, but what it really is it's a trusting throw. It's a belief and it's a knowledge of the offense. This is why it was good to see Kyler make a throw like that, because if he had no knowledge of the offense, then he wouldn't know the receiver was going to be there, right? Like, this isn't the complicated part of the offense yet, by the way. This hasn't gotten to the point where KOC is calling into their headsets a random play and they just have to know it and know every check. Like, we're not there yet. But for basic stuff, Kyler getting out and having a pretty decent day is a good sign. But you're exactly right that the where and the when it's kind of like, here's what it reminds me of, Hans, is shooting percentage in basketball. People think that equals how good are you of a shooter. It doesn't always. I mean, NBA players alone in the gym, they usually make a very, very high percentage of their shots. But if you take bad shots during the games, even if you're a great shooter, you're not going to have a good percentage. And if you only take the safe shots, this would be a little bit of Kirk was kind of like this. If you only take the safe shots where you're wide open, does that really help your team that much if you can only make those and only take those? So I think there's a very big similarity to quarterbacks, where if you can only take what's there, then you're going to have a high completion percentage and quarterback rating probably, but is that going to help you win? Like, I don't know. Like, you have to break a few eggs to make an omelet. You have to make some mistakes probably. You have to take risks and throw into traffic at times. So balancing that is really tough. Purple Kool-Aid, did Felton look like he was running more crisp routes? Hard to determine based on today, but he was out there, did make a catch from Kyler Murray, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of Ty Felton, but that's going to be something that has to play out through the entire season with him. But he was getting a lot of work today, ran a lot of routes, and it's something I'll pay closer attention to as we go forward, especially when the pads come on. Then I think you could see a little better, is he creating separation and stuff like that, but looked fine to me today. And then the other thing is too, that eventually they'll get into these situational type of stuff where you really start to see players shine in the situational drills. And then like as the season or as the camp plays out, we'll get a feeling of, oh, like he's getting open a lot or something. Like today, first day, yeah, he's out there, he made a catch. Couldn't really tell well enough to say to you, oh yeah, his route running is much better. But it's something I'll keep an eye on a little bit in warm-ups and see if I notice a difference, because the main issue with him, so this is what I can look for. The main issue with him is he was too straight up. And when you're straight up, there's a lot of surface area for the corners to get their hands on you. So you need to be a little bit lower when you're out of your breaks and be a little more bendy. He's kind of like track runner. So if he was able to, improve on that, then he could have a chance to get open more often. Joker said McCarthy's press conference made me want to believe in him. Yeah, it was very well done. I mean, I don't need, in terms of press conferences, and you're right, Hans, with your next comment that he doesn't need to be judged by press conferences. But you know what? Like, this is important, though. You know who it's important to? It's important to the head coach. It's important to the franchise. You are the face of the franchise. So when you go out there and you kind of have a pithy little press conference where it seems like you're salty and you're not being a good teammate, that's not what they want. You are the front door of the entire franchise. This stuff is important. And you can handle it like Sam Darnold or Kyler Murray today was very short-winded, and Darnold never dove deep into stuff. He never shared all of his deepest thoughts and desires with us, but he always handled it in a very professional way. There is a standard. These franchises are worth $10 billion. I mean, like, you got to handle yourself like a pro. And I thought that JJ McCarthy did that today. So no, he's not judged on press conferences, but how you look to the public matters to the franchise, because really you're not just speaking it to us. You're really talking to the entire fan base. So when you're asked about the quarterback competition, if you're like, I don't know, hope he never talks to me, that doesn't inspire confidence in anybody in the fan base. It's going to think like, oh, okay, well, he's not really giving off good teammate, want to be a Viking forever type of vibes. That's sort of the point. They care about that stuff from the bottom all the way to the top. So you can't be really dismissive about it. Now, if it's an inside linebackers press conference, maybe not so much, but a quarterback is an executive with a team. It's different. You got to handle yourself in a certain way. And you can learn a lot, man, from the way people handle a press conference. We've certainly found that over the years, that you can learn a lot from what they say up there. Mike says, does KOC and the coaching staff focus more on completed and incompleted passes, or whether the quarterback is in control of the offense? Yeah, you want completions. You want to have, guys catching the football, not hitting the ground. Like that's a real thing. But if Kyler Murray hits Jawan Jennings in the hands and he drops it, like happened today on a slant route, it's like, well, not going to ding him there. I think the biggest thing when you have these quarterbacks where you know that Kyler Murray is already accurate, you have a huge sample size of him playing accurate football in the NFL, then it's not as important if he overthrows somebody. You're like, well, okay. In the real games, he's been accurate for his entire career. Really what you're looking for is the timing and the operations. So do you get to the line of scrimmage, get everyone lined up correctly, call it with the right cadence, not having guys jumping off sides or not knowing the call or whatever. You make your adjustments that you need to make. So, hey, I'm reading the defense this way, and this is what we're going to do. We're going to check into this, or we're going to go with this play, or we're going to adjust whatever, motion, something. There's a lot of that in KOC's offense. And okay, so you got all that done. That's check box number one. You've done all that correctly. Now, number two is, do you read out the defense right? So you drop back and you look out to the defense, and where you usually start as a quarterback is the safeties. So you look, is it a single safety or is it two safeties deep? And that will determine what your routes are. And this is how complicated the NFL is. That when Justin Jefferson takes off of the line of scrimmage, he might not know, am I going left or am I going straight? Because he's watching to see what the coverage is. So then if he goes and he sees there's only one safety, all right, I'm going. Or if there's two safeties, okay, I'm breaking into the middle. You have to be on the same page as the quarterback. So they're identifying that's what the safeties are doing. That's now where am I going with the football? And there's more to it than that, obviously. And there's moving parts all over the place. There's hots based on blitzes and stuff like that. And then if you throw it and it is on time, then you've done it all perfectly. If you were to throw it a little bit behind with the timing in training camp, I don't think you're going to look at that and go, oh my gosh, F-, get out of here. You're going to look at it and say, all right, we got to rep that again to make sure that we're on point with someone like that. But with McCarthy, the standard is a little different because he's been so inaccurate. So if he overthrows somebody or the timing is not right, which I think has been a huge issue for McCarthy of, I was supposed to throw it there and I'm just a little behind from reading it out. Well, then it's going to be an issue. And there were 2 or 3 plays today that I thought McCarthy was a little bit behind and just lagging on the decision. Like, get rid of the ball, go 1, 2, 3, go. So that's where he has to prove it out. So they're not just looking at completion and incompletion. We are looking at that, but that's why I'm trying to map it out and also give you guys details on different throws and how it looked with the competition because there's so much more to it. But the coaches know the play. That's what we don't know standing on the sideline. We don't know the play. And that makes all the difference. Steven says Ingram Dawkins with the starting defensive line unit. Oh boy, can't wait for Banks to win that job. They're not competing against each other. Ingram Dawkins is more of rotating on the inside, but playing outside linebacker. So they're not, it's not Ingram Dawkins versus Banks. They were on the field, I think at the same time today, at least to some extent. And Ingram Dawkins can play 3 technique, but he can also play outside linebacker, and he was doing both today. So yeah. I don't think that's really the competition. I don't think that Banks he's in competition with himself. If Banks is ready to go, then off they go, right there. Then he's going to be the starter. Scotty says, found it interesting how JJ was more forthcoming about his workouts with teammates where Kyler was deflecting, maybe a personality difference. Found it notable for some reason. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think that Kyler just probably didn't want to get into it. And I mean, JJ didn't go into great depth either. They don't need to tell us every single detail of what they did over the summer. I don't know any reason not to, like, it's not a big secret or whatever, but I think that Kyler just didn't want to go into some sort of rundown of like, all right, do you guys want a map? I just don't think that's what he was looking for, but that wasn't something that I was taking with me too much. I mean, you found it notable, but I was kind of like, I don't know. I mean, it sounds like they both worked out with teammates throughout the summer. There was the video from Jordan Schultz of Kyler working out with Jordan Addison and said that they had both been there for quite some time. So I don't know. I mean, none of it matters now, right? Like now it's about the practices and how you actually perform with your teammates. But I think with Kyler, people are always going to be looking for like, were you really doing the homework? Just forever, just because of the stuff from Arizona. We need a pie chart says one day of quarterback practice is no guarantee about anything, but there seems to be reasons to be positive so far. I mean, here we are a couple hours into training camp having started, but I thought that both quarterbacks looked prepared for the day. And that's all you are looking for on a day like today is, does it look like Kyler sort of knows what he's doing? He doesn't know the whole offense yet, and there's going to be rough days for sure, as there were with Kirk and as there were with Sam Darnold. But did it look like he understood where to go with the football? Largely, yes. Was not perfect on every single throw, but didn't look lost. I'll tell you, it was a great baseline once upon a time, and I don't mean to dump on this guy as much as I do, but Kellen Mond, that's what lost looked like. Like, I know what lost looks like in training camp, and Kyler Murray was far from that. It was a pro quarterback practice for both guys today. Neither one struggled. Neither one was crazy aggressive down the field, though. And I think JJ McCarthy, this is something I'm going to be looking for tomorrow. Like, is he a little more aggressive tomorrow? Because on this day, it was a lot of underneath stuff. Like, a vast percentage was underneath for JJ McCarthy. So does he start to kind of ramp it up and go downfield a lot more than he did today? But both quarterbacks were fine. Yeah, that's how I would put it. Both were fine. Steven, it was a very big crowd. I didn't ask questions today in the press conference because on the first day of training camp, just a lot of people. There's a lot of TV. There's a lot of writers. Like, everybody's out for day one. So Didn't jump in the mix, but you'll hear me plenty, I promise. You heard, Zolgad, Seifert was in there, but I'll be there. Yep, I'll be there. Purple Kool-Aid says, both quarterbacks had good days and good pressers. The competition still isn't 50-50. Of course not. No. I mean, it's not going to be 50-50 exactly, because Kyler is going to get the benefit of the doubt as the guy who has started and played in a lot of football games and has played at a certain level. That doesn't mean that it can't change. It's just that it's got to be pretty clear that McCarthy is the better quarterback in order for him to have a real chance to win the job. Steven says what Flores didn't say is his productive years came pre-COVID. Oh, you're talking about Jamal Adams. Yeah, no, that's true. And look, I mean, I think with players like this, we just have to be realistic, right? I mean, that's all. We just have to be realistic. And thank you, Christopher, for the super chat. Really appreciate that. Not required, but always definitely appreciated. With someone like Jamal Adams, it is an ultimate flyer. You are bringing the guy in to see where he's at, see what he's got, see how he fits. And if there's something there, then maybe he can play a little for you. And that's kind of it. I mean, at this age, with this much mileage, with injuries in his past, with, as you said, has not been a very productive player. He's changing positions really from being a safety to more of a linebacker. I mean, like the excitement over it, I thought was, hey, look, it's training camp. They signed a player that we've all heard of. But if you're expecting the Jamal Adams that was there before, I mean, that would be a little bit too much. Could you expect the guy that played last year for the Raiders, played 448 snaps, was fine, got a few quarterback pressures, made a few tackles on underneath passes? Yeah, but I think it's really just a depth issue now with the linebacker position, that once you get past, you don't know what Gold Day is going to be or how ready he's going to be. And once you get past Cashman, who's been injured, and Eric Wilson, then you're like, well, what do we got else? And it doesn't seem that Brian Flores has been high on Ivan Pace in a couple of years now. So they bring in a guy, they're going to see how it goes, and that's really it. And then we'll just see what happens. Bruno O'Neill knows what's important, but congrats to him anyway. I know. I mean, it's the day that you get your contract extension, but a good offensive lineman is not going to say, yeah, man, I'm going to buy a Maserati tonight. Let's go. It's just, that's not their mentality. All of them are they have even good talkers like Brian O'Neill. You got to be a selfless person to be an offensive lineman, because you're very rarely celebrated. And he kind of joked about, yeah, I'm not up at this podium very often. It's like, hey, I'd be happy to have you up there because he's such a great talker, but he's not going to be up at the podium very often when you're a right tackle, even if you're a captain, right? So, but yeah, I mean, Brian O'Neill as we went through this entire thing, should you extend Brian O'Neill? My opinion was always absolutely yes. You just don't replace guys like this. And even if there's some injuries, even if there's some age that go along there, it is not easy to find another Brian O'Neill in the locker room, or his actual performance. We should mention, he was 13th best tackle by PFF last year, consistently in the top 20, sometimes back in 2022, even as high as the top 10. It's a great player, great leader, Ring of Honor type guy. Yeah, that's what you expect from him. And that dude, it shows you the point. So we were talking about this the other night. Would you trade for Vita Vea? Now, a lot of people said absolutely not, no way, which is funny because Vita Vea, but you're happy with the Brian O'Neill extension. And it's funny because Vita Vea is the same age as Brian O'Neill, basically. And it would be I was saying maybe it'd be a 4-year contract. It's well, that's what Brian O'Neill just got, right? It'd be kind of like this contract if you were to trade for Vita Vea. But you, as the Vikings, are looking long-term always, but trying to maintain success. And we know that. And with someone like Brian O'Neill, he's one that you go for it because of, right? Right now, this is why you would think about hey, we need to take a shot at this if we've got a winning record or something. And just, I think personally that they should wait until the trade deadline to decide where are we really at. Should we make a trade like that? I don't think Nolan Teasley should do it right now without knowing what his quarterback position is going to look like. But just when you talk about, oh, well, they're not really a win now team with players like Brian O'Neill, you are. You're kind of always like that. Steven isn't O'Neal's AAV 24 million. Oh, 24. Did I guess 26? That's 24. Okay, so maybe I was ever so slightly too high. Good call. Yeah, I think I might have been 26 and he's 24. Yeah. Okay. Close enough, Steve. This isn't a math show. Chris, is Huber going to make it? It's Joe Huber, not Ben Huber. I think Joe Huber will make it. Yeah, they liked what they saw from him last year. He had a very good preseason. They had to start him in a game against Cleveland. Not the best game to try to judge him against because they are super good. But, it wasn't a collapse. He tried his best in that game. But I think he has backup offensive lineman potential, and he could stick around for sure. Joker, what an honor for Nolan Teasley to have his first big contract be Brian O'Neill. Totally agree. You're not joking there, Joker, that it has to be very cool and O'Neill mentioned this, and he said, like, the way that it all went down, the communication that they had was great, and it was very respectful and appreciative of his talent and everything else. It didn't get nasty or anything else like that, and that's what you want to hear from your general manager when it's someone who's really important like this. Like, don't do this in a classless kind of way. Like, you want to show the respect to Brian O'Neill because you know that both he and the franchise and the ownership and the coaching staff, like, everybody's on the same page wanting this guy here for a longer term. But it is your job to get it done. And Teasley was able to do that. So his first contract extension, call it a success. I have not seen all the details yet, though. So I'm kind of waiting on, I wonder how long it really is and how many guaranteed dollars there really are. That will be interesting to see. Bruno said, if you think Banks is huge without pads, I know, man. I mean, he is so big, and this can't be my analysis all summer, and it won't be. But every time Banks comes up, when he walked down the field, you're just like, whoa, 6'6" and 330 is big. You know who else looked really big was Dominique Orange, but you knew that. He's a big boy, though. He was a big boy. Joker says with O'Neill's contract, looks like they want Tiernan to be a future right guard. 2 thumbs up. Yeah, I think that's very possible. They're starting him out at tackle as they should, but I would like to see them start to cross-train him. And when you think about Will Fries and you're not really sure where Will Fries is going to go, that it would make a lot of sense to have Tiernan get trained at right guard and see if that's something that he could do. Steven says Ingram Dawkins playing the Jihad Ward role still means that we're just one edge Turner and Van Ginkel injury away from Tyler Batty or Bo Richter or Chaz Chambliss starting at edge. Yeah, I mean, it would be probably Ty would just play out there. Like for right now, when everyone's healthy, it's a Jihad Ward type of role is how it looks. He would probably start if there was a game today, which I like the idea of Ty Ingram Dawkins. I've spoken to him probably, 4 or 5 times throughout the last 2 years. And you just sort of get the sense that he really has the right attitude to be a good Flores player. I don't really know how exactly to describe that, but he said that he's a film junkie. He studied a ton of film this year with outside linebackers. He studied his own film, and he was telling me, and this is going to be an article over at purpleinsider.football eventually, but he was telling me that, he made this kind of notebook of here was my positive plays when he watched all of his film back, and here's why. And then here's my negative plays, and here's why. Like, I think he's a bright dude. So he might fit well in that. Now, do you want him to start right now if Van Ginkel is out 5 games? No. Like, you'd much rather have him in a role right now and continue to develop. So I'm in agreement with everybody who thinks they need an outside linebacker. It's just, seems like there's just a little bit of a waiting game, and we're going to have an emergency podcast someday, I guess. Car Ramrod says, Matthew, would you say this offseason has shown the least amount of fan interest since you have been here? The least? I don't know about the least. Trying to think what season that would be. Probably, 2020 is just miserable. That doesn't really count. No one was thinking about football really that year as we went into the season, but 2021 would probably be the least because I think we all knew at that point that Zimmer was kind of dead man walking, and there was so much drama. Zimmer's publicly attacking the quarterback, and the fans are more interested in fighting about the political nature of the quarterback than actually any of the stuff to do with the team. I think we all knew at that point that they didn't have enough talent to really compete for a Super Bowl, but here you have Justin Jefferson, who's an instant superstar. I mean, that the vibes were freaking bad during that year, and really the 2 years. 2021 is New O'Connell. 2022 is New O'Connell. 2023 was a lot of players left, so I think that there was maybe a little less excitement after the way they lost in the playoffs. 24 though, no. 24 is the low point because Kirk was gone. Darnold's your quarterback. And then, I mean, I guess at this point in the year, people are intrigued by JJ McCarthy, but the minute he gets hurt, Vikings fans were out. They're like, yeah, I'll watch the games, but who cares? And then, Darnold just gets rolling and the interest returns, but this is kind of a little bit like that of, prove it. But I do think there are a lot of people who are buying Kyler Murray and that idea and interested in that as well. So I wouldn't say it's the worst. There's more of I would put it as caution. There's just a lot of caution with Vikings fans right now where they're going to need to see it. Like camp practices will tell a story. They certainly will. We'll tell it. I mean, the audience is huge here tonight. Welcome everybody. If this is your first show, welcome to Purple Insider. But I think overall, in terms of fully buying in, you got to see them beat the Packers, beat the Bears, like get rolling and show you have a really good team first. So no, I don't think it's all time low, but I think it's a little bit like it's going to take some show me. Joker, good thing I bought a lot of Jacoby Thomas stock. He'll start by the end of the season. I could see it. I could see him being on the field and carving out a role. And someone like Theo Jackson is really, really well liked, but there might just be more physical talent for some of the other guys and maybe more quickness to some of the guys. I don't know, right? Like if Thomas kind of proves that he can be a long-term option, then Theo Jackson might end up being more of a special teamer, more rotational and dime type of player. I could see that. If they're not fully buying into where Jay Ward is at, then Thomas might be able to have a multiple type role. Like third round safety to starter is not the hugest jump in the world. The Gate says this might be one of our best playing time drafts. Oh, you mean in terms of like how much each guy gets in the draft and how much they're on the field? It certainly could be. I mean, every guy you can very easily see how they'd be on the field fast. Caleb Banks should play a lot. Dominique Orange should play a lot. Jake Golday is one injury away from playing a lot at inside linebacker, and Max Bredesen will play. You could see Claiborne getting on the field. There's one injury away from maybe even Charles Demings being cornerback 3. Like, yeah, they drafted a lot of guys who were not that far from the field. And most importantly, they drafted a lot of guys, which they have not done in recent years. So now we're out there like, oh, a rookie. Oh, another rookie. That draft pick, he made a play. Now he's out there. I mean, last year, there's 5 guys and one of them got hurt. 4 rookies to look at. This year, we got a lot of them. Caleb, who do you think wins QB1? What percentage? Honestly, don't say 50-50. No, I'm not going to say 50-50. I mean, for me, right now, starting camp, it's 90-10. Kyler Murray to be the starter. I might have even said 95-5 before that. And I will stick with that until it changes. See, these meters, they're meters. They're not dead set in stone. And just because someone has a 10% chance, that means 1 out of 10. That doesn't mean 0. There is probably a 1 in 10 chance that JJ McCarthy is good enough on a daily basis where they are like, this is the guy we drafted. Let's go. But I also think that with so much pressure on everyone, with someone like Brian O'Neill giving that impassioned speech earlier today, I mean, you just need a veteran quarterback to get out there and play well enough to allow your defense and allow your playmakers to do what they do because you have talent all over this field. So I'm still leaning very heavily on Kyler Murray, but it is a competition. And when we see both quarterbacks play as much as they did today, then hey, I'm not going to say it's not. I'm not going to say it's not real. As of today, it was real. They split reps. If it was totally fake, they wouldn't have, but they did. So McCarthy's still in it. It's just that I would lean toward the percentages being in Murray's favor. But if McCarthy stacks a lot of days like he did today and keeps making improvement, then you're going to feel very confident if he does play, and maybe even there's a scenario where he could still be your guy. So we can never just count that out. Joker, if McCarthy has improved to a top 25 quarterback, how visible would that change be in camp? How would it look compared to a top 15 guy like Murray? It's a great question. I mean, can you tell in training camp where someone's going to rank at the end of the season? No, I don't believe that you can. Because last year, I was quite convinced at the end of training camp that there was no way that J.J. McCarthy could have a terrible year. But then he had a short week and had a kid, and then he had an injury, and then he had another injury, and then it got overwhelming for him, I think. And that, right? Like, who can ever predict this stuff? That's the hard part, is that because Murray has played so much football, you have an idea of what he can really be. Whereas JJ McCarthy, you have to believe on it based on practices. It's just harder to do. But I would say that if JJ McCarthy was completing 75% of his passes out there, just day after day, accurate, on point, like they could be even, and McCarthy gets the edge, and they just decide, you know what, like this was the guy we drafted, so hey, sorry, we put you through the quarterback competition. It would just have to be very, very good to be convinced that he could be top 15, top 25. Because if you're still going through this and going, he's still late on stuff, he's still inaccurate, but we like his camp, but he still has these issues that he's working his way through and making steady improvement, then you're probably going to go with Kyler Murray. So I think the bar would be very high to be convinced of something like that. Based Jiren says McCarthy looked like a world beater last training camp. I'm not fooled. He did not look like a world beater last year in camp. I have seen that in person with Sam Bradford and really the second half of Sam Darnold. But Sam Bradford, that was a world beating camp. He was nowhere close to that. Nowhere close last year. Now, that's not revisionist history. It was a good camp. And I know that I said last year, I think what we've learned about McCarthy is that he's going to reach a certain baseline, and he did not. And I was completely wrong, but he didn't. I wouldn't describe it as world beating. I would describe last year as competent camp for JJ McCarthy. And then I would also criticize myself and my own evaluation, because what I did a lot of times last year was he spiked one into the dirt. Oh, well, like next throw. He overthrows someone for an interception. It's all right. Well, on to the next throw. He's just learning. I did that too much. I probably should have had a higher standard last year. But then again, I also didn't know he was going to get hurt week 2. I think if he had played Cincinnati and maybe he's healthy the whole time, it's easier to progress. You wouldn't have to get reset to square one every single time. So circumstances play into these things so much. Your schedule, who you play, does your offensive line stay healthy? Like all these things go into a guy's season and not just one thing. But you're right, though. Like you're right to set your bar at, hey, man, it's got to, even if it's really good, I'm still going to be skeptical. That's fine because he's played real games. Abnormal says, apparently the Bengals were already throwing hands during practice today. Could you ever see a world where a KOC practice goes to fisticuffs? It has a little, like tiny bit, a couple of times, but only for a minute. Joint practices got really tense when they practiced against the Tennessee Titans a couple years ago, where Tier Tart got thrown out of the practice and they were really abusing the Vikings offensive line and they got into it. So usually that's where it happens. I have seen only 1 or 2 times. I think it was Xavier Rhodes and Stephon Diggs got into a fight one day, and then they did like a joint, hey, everything's fine press conference. And it was like, hey, I didn't think it wasn't, but okay, like that's all right. The guys are competing hard. But no, I don't think that KOC creates an environment where you're going to see too many guys fight. Like it's hot out there. You're hitting the same guy all the time, and pushing and shoving happens last year where Tyler Batty hit JJ McCarthy, and then, or no. It was Tyler Batty hit Aaron Jones, and then JJ McCarthy jumped in and like punched Tyler Batty. So you'll see it. I mean, you'll see it, but I don't know if it's going to be to the level of like a huge brawl. Probably not, because usually everybody jumps in to try to stop it. It's not something you really want to see, a camp brawl. Steven says, I do wonder if players will be attending SummerSlam. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, probably. I think that Justin Jefferson was part of their promotions. They probably will. It's a good time for those guys. Get to a Lynx game. It's a good place to be in the summer, but you want to be in that hotel studying too. Joker says, is this team a contender with Vita Vea and a veteran edge rusher? With the caveat that you need Kyler Murray to be the starter and play well. But I think the answer is yes, that they would be. I mean, because you're probably talking about the two weaknesses that would keep them away from being a top 5 to 7 defense for me are uncertainty at DT and outside linebacker. But I also think that it would be a huge bet to make. I think it would be a huge bet to make. Viking Jerome says, why didn't anyone ask Kevin O'Connell about the Diana Rossini story? Well, because she had a relationship with a coach from the Patriots. That would be why, not the Minnesota Vikings. Had she had a relationship with the coach of the Minnesota Vikings, then that would have been different. But she got pulled over and said she was texting with O'Connell. Is that what we're supposed to ask about? I mean, an NFL insider who's well connected around the league texting a coach is really not a story, man. It's just not. It's not a story. Reporters, including myself, text people in the league sometimes. I don't know what is supposed to be asked. What's the question supposed to be? Also, O'Connell didn't talk today, but I don't know what the question, who cares? I could not care less if an NFL insider was texting with a coach. Happens all the time. Steven, FanDuel question of the day, ask us after joint scrimmages with Baltimore. So the FanDuel question of the day was that Derrick Henry is 1,225.5 yards on FanDuel. And yes, they will have a joint practice later on this summer. So where are we setting the bar for the Vikings? A lot of you have great questions about the running game, but where are we setting the bar for them for expectations for total running yards? Where would they rank? That is the FanDuel question of the day. Joker. Did you catch, was it on like Vikings.com, the question to Goal Day? Yeah. Because I was asking him about how he studies, but I'm going to write about it later, so don't ruin it for everyone. Austin, thanks for the breakdown of practice and rep counting, despite how much it irks KOC. Well, look, hey, KOC said that he wants this to be a transparent quarterback battle. So we chart, and we'll make it as transparent as possible. And I'm going to make my little charts, and we're going to talk about how each guy looked each day. And I'm going to try to count positive, routine, negative throws, talk about, different things that happened. None of us are going to be perfect at this, though. And that's the thing that O'Connell, if you're the head coach, you're like, I want reporters to get it right, but also I can't tell you everything for each quarterback in the details. So we're doing our absolute best. And I've haven't really looked at other people's write-ups, but somebody said that most of the reporters came away with the same conclusion as me today, which was pretty good. It was fine. There's probably going to be days where I might think, based on how it's going, like this is not going great, or this is going awesome, where Kevin O'Connell might have a different opinion because he knows the plays and he knows the assignments and I don't. But usually when it's going real well, they're completing passes and it looks good. So we'll do our best. We'll do our best to be as fair as we can. Thank you, SF Will. Appreciate that. Glad to have you here. That's funny. That's funny with Purple Kool-Aid. Good reference there. Flores goes full Lloyd Dobler and stands outside of Harry's window with a boombox. Yeah, just come back, man. Just come back. What song would he be playing? Is there a song called Hitman? Who wears a better bucket hat, Raggets or Seifert? I mean, the veteran there. We're going to give the edge to the veteran for sure. Joker, Harry will be back if we're good. Could see it. Steven, we may want to think about bringing in Christian Wilkins. Whatever happened with Christian Wilkins in that locker room with the Raiders, doesn't look like anybody is going to bring him in. Really good player, but something was off there. So it seems that teams are kind of afraid there. Will I wear an umbrella hat at training camp? That is not going to happen. No, I'm ball cap all the way. This is the all terrain, man. Like I go to Burger King wearing this hat. I go to a ball game wearing this hat. Go to a practice. I actually have two of them. They're the same hat. One is black and one is blue. I'm sure you guys have noticed. And then I have like a really bright blue one. Sometimes I'll play golf in. But the Nike hat, that's what I'm not changing. All I do is just put sunscreen on the ears. But luckily the Vikings have gotten us like a tent over the last 2 years. That's been nice. Joker, how many practices until Murray can run the offense better than McCarthy? Well, I mean, when you're talking about timing, this is a quarterback who's been really good with timing when he commits to it for Murray. And I watched all of that tape this offseason, and when he committed to throwing on time, it was like, that's it. And you wouldn't see it as consistently as you want it to be, though, with Murray. So if he can get the timing down of the offense, then, I mean, we're probably talking about 2 weeks for a guy who has done it so many times in his career. But also, McCarthy has talked a lot about how, or at least he did today, how it's clicking and how he is feeling like a clarity about the offense and he's understanding it. And now it just has to happen with the right timing. Because and the thing about McCarthy is I fully believe one of the reasons they drafted him was when they met with him, they were really impressed at his ability on a whiteboard, that he knows football really well. But I really think that the lack of playing football, lack of throws in college, the injury in the first year, it's made it very difficult to like meld the two together, knowing what the offense is with actually executing it. And we did see some good execution today, and we'll see where it goes from there. But I really just think that the key to J.J. McCarthy becoming an NFL starting quarterback is just work. It's reps, it's games, it's preseason that I hope for him that he gets first halves of preseason games if he's not going to be the starter, that he plays a lot because he just needs to play football. Murray's just played way more and I think can see better out there. Oak Dog, I'll have a tough time putting the preseason JJ high hope from last year behind me. It's fun to speculate in preseason, but educated guesses at the end of the day. Yeah, I think a lot of you guys, now here's the thing. I'll go through it real quick since this is year 10 for me. This is the 10th training camp that I have covered and my 10-year anniversary is coming up in August of being a Vikings beat reporter. But if I go through how the quarterback performed every year in training camp, I think that you'll come away with the conclusion that he usually at least has some connection. Like Sam Bradford, unreal in 17, and then came out, was unreal in the first game against the Saints. It was probably going to have a great year, but ends up getting injured. 18, there were problems. 2018, there were just a lot of issues with the offense, and it showed during the season. 19, it looked much better. There was tension with the receivers and stuff, but it looked much better in camp, and he played much better. 2020 was a mess, and it came out as a mess, but that was everybody. You know, the whole situation was a wreck. 2021, ton of tension, ton of issues, and that team could never close a game. And I think part of it was just because of all the stress that Mike Zimmer had put on the team. 2022, the vibes were really good. The practices were a little messy, but the vibes were really good. So there's a lot of times, and the Darnold stuff, like we started hyping up Darnold in training camp at the end of camp. Like this guy is really completing a lot of passes, and then it worked out. So it's probably worked more than it hasn't, but this was an extreme example last year of a rookie quarterback that you had no idea how it was going to go. Essentially a rookie quarterback. I know I rejected that idea last year, but then I have to realize now how close it was to being a rookie quarterback. Abnormal says, on the topic of future Vikings DT Vita Vea, rather trade LDR than Big Citrus, even if that means adding another late round draft pick. Yeah, sure. I mean, there's just going to be a difference there because Citrus is, and I like him too. I mean, gosh, he is gigantic and he's got good feet, but he would be, the issue is like, if you're the Bucks and you have 5 teams that are offering a second round draft pick and something else. And one team can give you a player that plays the same position that they just drafted. You're going to be like, okay, give me that because I can replace my guy immediately with someone young and I can kind of look good in this trade. That's the way to win the trade. That's the way to get it. Well, I mean, win the trade depends on how they perform, but that would be the way to like win the bidding war, would be to offer somebody like that. But the thing about a trade is that both teams have to feel good about it. It would feel better if you're the Vikings to give away someone that you are valuing less, right? Although I think LDR could be a good player, but I get where you're coming from. It's just that if I'm Tampa and I look at Levi Drake Rodriguez, I think, yeah, we've got some Levi Drake Rodriguez's at home. If I look at Dominique Orange, I think, oh, 330 pounds. I think that I'm intrigued, right? That was why I brought his name into it. Not because I want him traded. It's just, I'm thinking of it from Tampa Bay's perspective. What would it take to convince me if I'm Tampa Bay? That's what I was thinking of. Steven says the Saints will be called division rival about Vita Vea after fearing that Brian Breeze tore his ACL. Oh yeah. Well, I mean, if I'm them, I am not going to trade Vita Vea in the division. Absolutely no way. Steven says, Gavin Bartholomew may be the leader in the clubhouse for Mr. Mankato after day one. Yeah. I mean, I think he's got a really good chance at it actually, because he's going to play a lot during the preseason. Already he is showing that, he can catch the football a little bit more down the field. He's got some good speed and athleticism. And you can tell that. So I agree with you. I think that there's a good chance of that. Is this Dana here? Longtime Hurricane fan since 1981. I watched them very closely, not being boastful when I tell you Thomas as a rookie safety is way ahead of where Jay Ward was as a safety. He can start. Well, he is actually a safety. And Jay Ward has been more of a versatile type of player. So, I think that is going to help Jacoby Thomas right away. And look, he was a serious playmaker for that team last year. A serious playmaker. I mean, interceptions, he could blitz. He was great for Miami on a great defense. So I would not be shocked at all if they found someone they really like and is going to play. Ward is more of a guy who's developed over years as a special teamer and is somebody who played just a little bit of a role last year. So they're at different points in their career, and there could be a little bit more trust that goes along with just with Jay Ward to start. But I don't know. I definitely don't want to close the door on Jacoby Thomas. Joker punting competition. They did not punt today. So I'll let you know. I will let you know. Dustin says this sounds like Kirk would have been a better option for a quarterback competition. I don't understand. I don't understand why that would be. If you wanted JJ McCarthy to win it, then Kirk would have been a better option. If you wanted the best quarterback, then Kyler would be the best option. Ahmed says, did any of the staff talk about Caleb Banks' health? Is his availability questionable for the start of the season? So we did not get to that in the press conference with O'Connell the other day. It was a lot about the quarterback. I think O'Connell's going to talk maybe later in the week when the pads come on. I think the head coach usually talks right before the pads come on. So that'll be a conversation, but he has given us, or did we get an update? Did we get a question about Banks' health? I don't know. Maybe it was just Darisaw. Oh, it was yes. I think it was whether he was, am I remembering this right? Like that he would have no restrictions. Maybe I'm thinking of Darisaw. But either way, we saw him out there. So he's out there, and we'll get an update on how it's looked and how it's gone. But the fact that he was practicing today and he was taking some reps, good sign. Those who knew Nathan Peterman earlier, good for you. Steven, can we get to 16,000 subscribers? Folks, I would love it. I would love if you subscribe. Chuck Addison off to another hot start like last year. Unfortunately, after his suspension last year didn't look the same. I hope he is not a hot start this year, continues into the season. Every camp he's had, he's been great. I think he's a really super talented player. Last year, I agree with you that, a lot of it was on the connection with the quarterback, but it was with him. It was different from with Justin Jefferson. With Justin Jefferson, you truly felt like McCarthy had the yips trying to throw to Jefferson. He didn't trust it, or he was trying to force it. Just couldn't get on the same page with him. But Justin wasn't doing a whole heck of a lot different. He dropped a couple balls, but his drop rate was the same as it was in past years. Addison's drop rate was much higher. And he had some very unusual ones, like catches that were right there. It wasn't like, oh my gosh, he threw it 10,000 miles an hour and that's why he dropped it. It was like, no, that was 25 yards down the field. You should have caught that. So we'll see with him. But yeah, I mean, his connection with Kyler Murray and JJ McCarthy, he just makes quarterbacks look better because he's a good route runner and he's a great receiver, catcher of the football. Jay, O'Neill's signing was needed. Interest to see contract details. Yeah, probably only 2 years guaranteed. That would be my guess. I mean, when we talk about $96 million, if it's like $40 million guaranteed, which was my guess, or somewhere in that range, then that's really more of a 2-year contract, but we'll see what the structure is for O'Neill. Usually, if I had to guess, I would say probably, 2-year into the extension. It'll probably take him until 2028, and then it's up for question after that. Joker says O'Neill mentioned the intensity feeling the highest in years and how Tiernan, Golday, and Orange worked at the facility. Yeah, he did, and that was good to hear that a lot of the rookies are in there. I mean, this rookie class, like, we don't know, but my first impression is got a lot of good players. Rob Brzezinski should be drafting Nolan. No, I'm just kidding. But it just seems to me that they got a lot of guys that fit the mold for the Vikings and fit what their coaches want and have some talent. And like they could quickly look more like a team that is on the rise with some of these young guys. You're always kind of one draft class away from being like, oh, this is a rising team. It's like if you have the 2015 draft for the Vikings, oh man, you are on the rise. Just like that. But if you have, 2016 draft, maybe not the same. TJ says we're going to do this scientifically and then proceeds to explain the least scientific process possible. TJ, so here's what I'm doing, man. The process is it's transparent for Purple Insider too, which is I'm going to keep track of every throw for both quarterbacks each day. And I'm going to track what area they were thrown to and whether it's a positive, negative, or routine throw, which is subjective. I will admit that is subjective. It's my feeling from where I'm sitting of whether it was a positive, negative, or routine. But I do have a way of thinking about that, which is if it's a negative throw, it was either not like a pass breakup can still be a good throw from the quarterback. But if it was inaccurate, if it flew over, if it was under, if the timing was bad, if the quarterback was sacked, but still threw the ball anyway, like that would go down as a negative one. Or the positive side would be if it was an anticipation throw, if it was into a tight window, if it was like, there's easy ways to quantify that. It is my own, like it's my show and it's my reporting. So it is my own way of doing it. But I think it's right to acknowledge that even as best as I can do with tracking to give you more of a better picture of like the locations of the balls and the positive and negatives, that, there's going to be more to it. There's going to be timing and there's going to be what the coaches think, which is a much better analysis than mine's going to be because they know where the ball was supposed to go on each play. So yeah, I mean, I'm trying my best, but if you've got a better way to do it, you please let me know. Sean says, well said on quarterback and anticipation as they progress. Key will be, do they anticipate Jefferson before he gets open? Jefferson is a chess master with all defenses guarding him. Yeah, that was one of the best throws of the day by McCarthy was by Murray. It was an outbreaking route to Jefferson. I think it was the only catch he had today. Just an outbreaker to Jefferson, hit him right on the hands. That was one of those like, yep, that's good. That is how you do it. If you do that to Justin Jefferson a lot, then you're going to be in good shape. Sean said, I'd just like to pop in and say how stoked I am for training camp live streams. Me too. It's great to have you guys. Great to have this audience. I'm so pumped about just like being back and having this many people watching again, the energy, the comment section that I fall way behind, and the George Costanza references, which I'll try to have more. I knew this was coming. Boom, boom, skull. I actually knew this. I'm not even kidding. I anticipated in my brain today that when I mentioned there were drops in practice for Kyler's throws, just as a matter of fact, this happened, that someone would jump in the comments and be like, why are you mentioning drops for Kyler, but you didn't for JJ? You know why? I'm so biased. That's why. Boom, boom. I'm so biased. I think that's the trouble. It's all the bias. There's a couple drops today, and I included them in the recap. There you go. Now, I could show you from a statistical perspective the problem. I might as well, just because we're a couple hours in and I'm petty. So why don't I do it anyway? Wait, I got a screen share. Just for you, because I'm ready for this. I'm ready for this and everything that comes along with it. So if we look at last year, and this is PFF here, they have a wonderful little stat called adjusted completion percentage. Here it is, adjusted completion percentage. So what adjusted completion percentage does is it adjusts for drops, right? Now, no doubt, J.J. McCarthy did suffer from a lot of drops last year, and you could wonder to yourself, was that because he was throwing the ball too hard, or, was that the timing was off and it was harder on the receivers? Like, you could wonder those things, but even if we just go purely by drops, he had a lot of them. But luckily, PFF has an adjusted stat that what would your completion percentage have been had everyone caught the football? So let's take a look at that. Brock Purdy was number 1 at 80%, and Jared Goff was number 2, and Mac Jones. So those guys were at 80%. Hey, look, Kyler Murray at 78% if there were no drops last year. All right, let's use a little Control F and find McCarthy. 37th. So there you have it. So even if you remove the drops, J.J. McCarthy was 37th in adjusted completion percentage, and that is why they were not talked about a whole heck of a lot, even if we admit that it would have been better for maybe they win another game if some of the receivers had caught the football. It's possible they win the Chicago game if some of the receivers had caught the football. He suffered from some drops. He suffered from some bad left tackle play. Certainly did. Some injuries, some calamities. It's not all JJ's fault, but every quarterback has to go through stuff sometimes. And what you need to get to is a certain level of quarterback play to win games. And he didn't get there, which is why Kyler Murray is here. If it was all the receivers' fault for drops, Kyler Murray wouldn't be here. So it doesn't really hold up too well, but it is an absolute fact that Juwan Jennings and Xavier Scott had 2 drops today, which lowered the completion percentage for Kyler Murray. If Purple Insider's tracking included, which I do on the routine throws, if Purple Insider's tracking included adjusted completion percentage, it would have been higher today. So there's your full explanation. But I was waiting for you. I was ready. Caleb says, concern with JJ is that he was fine in camp last year, which was reported, and then in the season he sucked. Don't want that again. I'll take Kyler, who has more upside. Now, yeah, to your point, he was pretty good in training camp last year, and especially at the end of the year, which really shaped our opinions. I mean, it looked like everything was aligning for JJ McCarthy. And, when you think that Big Bad Purple Insider is so biased, go take a look at that podcast, man. Like, we thought, wow, he just had this great practice. And Chad Graff, who covers the Patriots, came up to me and said, I look forward to seeing the Vikings in the Super Bowl because this team looked great and McCarthy looks great. So practice does not tell you everything's going to happen in the season. And there's a million different ways that we could if we could only go back in time and he doesn't hurt his knee in the first training camp, what does it look like? If he doesn't get hurt in week 2, or if they just played a regular Sunday game and he had a kid on whatever and got to practice and sleep and whatever, well, what does it look like against the Falcons? And what does it look like if he gets to play the Bengals game? And then he hurt his hand later in the season, and that was unfortunately, you can't do that. There's a lot of circumstances that went into it, but the numbers kind of are what they say, and the team's decision tells us a lot about what they thought of his actual performance. So that's why we're here. But you're right, Caleb, to talk about how the prior has to matter a lot, and both quarterbacks having a B practice means Kyler Murray's playing. So it has to be A's for JJ McCarthy and probably has to be C's for Kyler Murray going forward. Joker over under 67.67 completion percent. So like an inside joke for Murray this season. I would say that he could probably, I mean, that's about dead on. I'll say slightly under. I'll say more like 66.7. I don't know. Like I don't know how many that's 1 pass per 100. So how about that? I think that O'Connell is going to push him to go down the field a little bit more, which could bring the completion percentage down a little bit. Ryu says, is it possible to trade Addison to a desperate team for 2 firsts? No, it is not. Absolutely not. No. Yes, you're right that receivers have gone out and have had injuries. Not 2 firsts, though. Is it possible you could get like a second? Yeah. Teams this time of year don't want to trade their first, though. Not unless it is a desperate of an all-time desperate situation, because they know it's like a long season. Luke, love the intro music. Thank you very much. And made it myself a while back. I was thinking about making a new one, but I don't know. You guys seem to like it. Purple Kool-Aid on Jamal Adams says if he could give us 400 snaps as a depth player, that's good. Yeah, I mean, if it's a rotational type of role and maybe he fills in for somebody for a couple weeks, like that's better than, and no disrespect to this guy because he was a good special teamer, but like Kamu Grugier-Hill, when he had to fill in 2024, it's just, he wasn't really big enough, couldn't really work, and they had to scramble. So at least this year they got a little more depth there. Luke, you've got them winning 10 games. That's, I think, the most reasonable right now. 1 practice in, but it's a team with a lot of intrigue that if certain things go right, then 10 is where they should be. I've got them at the 11, sort of projecting out a lot of things going the right way. They have more home games than road games this year. They play the NFC South. Like these things they are random, but sometimes they're not that random. Like every time that the Vikings bounce back and have a big season after a bad one, you're like, could that be because the schedule was more favorable? Could it be injury regression, luck regression, whatever it might be? Joker, I don't think that Pace has any trade value. No, I mean, he's a guy that you cut, another team picks up. Probably not. I did see, we need a pie chart. I did see Jamal Adams said he can walk your dog, you play any position. He may say that. It's not really true at this point in his career. I think he's got to be just a linebacker. But he can line up at different spots as a linebacker. Steven, Pace does play special teams, which Adams doesn't. Yeah, no, you're right that Pace could end up keeping his job because he plays special teams, unless they find other guys that can handle that role. But he was pretty important in that. Skull Valhalla, Grenard on the pup list. Yeah, it wasn't supposed to be serious, though. Chase, who do you think gets the most sacks and interceptions? Is the answer both Van Ginkel? Well, I think that Dallas Turner will have the most sacks. And Byron Murphy is kind of due for a bounce back season. Murphy last year, his PFF grade was really rough. I think in part because he had a lot of penalties. So if he cuts down on those penalties, should be fine. But last year, he couldn't buy a football in his direction for an interception. His targets, crazy number, his targets were like cut by 40% last year from what they were in 2024. Because the Vikings were leading so often in 2024, he got targeted a lot and got picks and got pass breakups. Last year just didn't get targeted a whole lot, and it looked like, and you know, he gave up some big plays, but I think it looked worse than it was because of that. Jackson, what do you think the ideal starter announcement date would be? I've got August 13th, because what August 13th gives you is a couple of weeks of padded practices. It gives you a night practice. You can pretty much, have a big sample size for both quarterbacks. Now, they don't have to be doing 50-50 all the way. It could be starting to lean in one direction. But then when you go into the preseason game, it allows you to stick to your plan that you've always had if you're Kevin O'Connell, which is starter plays a single series and that's it. And then the backup plays the rest of the first. I think it should be the first half if it's JJ McCarthy. The other guy plays, enough there. And it gives that person the lead up to playing against the Ravens and the joint practices, and then, resting in the third preseason game and onto the preparation for the Green Bay Packers. So I think that would be the ideal starting date if it's not before that. Joker says a lot of Vikings fans want to see the team fail just so they could be right about Kyler Murray. You know, I think that there's a group of online folks who just say stuff like to get attention. I think that happens kind of a lot. And I think we judge too much about other people just in general. In all of society, we judge too much about society. Like when you go out, think about how like social media is mostly negative. It's mostly drama. But then like go out to an art festival or a football game or a minor league baseball game and just like talk to some people. And you're like, oh yeah, the people aren't all negative and awful, right? But the internet is, because you get a lot more attention by being negative and awful. But when it comes to Kyler Murray, yeah, I mean, I think there are some people who have really made it their brand, just like they did with Kirk, just like they did with Justin Fields in Chicago. Those are not interesting people, by the way. People who like plant their flag on a quarterback and will die on the hill forever. It is the oldest shtick in the book. It is boring. It is not interesting. It's just classic trolling. It's like Skip Bayless hating LeBron James forever and never giving him any credit. It's like disingenuous, probably annoying more than anything. So people who do that, I don't have a lot of respect for when it comes to anything, because we're always changing in football and sports. And so if you're not acknowledging that things are always changing and you're just saying that, you know, you're going to live and die with one player and you're going to excuse every mistake they make and overpraise every good thing they do or whatever else and fight everybody or whatever, you just need a life, honestly, because it's nuanced and it's complex. All of this stuff. Sam Darnold proves that to us. Find the evidence. You need a big microscope, like the ones where you could see Saturn, in order to find in his stat sheet where he was good before he got to the Vikings. And yet he had a great season. So it's a complicated thing. Anyway, Steven can't see Gavin Gerhardt getting playing time in 2026. No, I can't either. Montish, opinion on Damon Claiborne. Label it like intrigued. There will be different categories that I fall into with certain players. Like I might be with someone like Caleb Banks, I could be potentially wowed. Like just put me in the wowed category, right? That's when Delvin Cook gets to the Vikings. That's when Justin Jefferson turns it on. Like, okay, with young players categories, there could be, the next level would be like, I can see it. So wowed is the best. I can see it as the next. Oh, I see why he was drafted. I see where this could go. And then like intrigued is probably the next one down where Damon Claiborne is, because when you see somebody with that quickness, you got to be intrigued. But I mean, wowed is going to take a lot more work. It's going to take a preseason, and it's going to take a lot of practices where we are wowed by him. And then it's also going to be, hey, are you actually third or fourth on the depth chart? Because Xavier Scott has more experience and can pass protect. Can they find a role for you? Like I'm wanting to pay attention. His skill set makes me want to pay attention to him, but I can't get to a point where I'm saying this is the next great Vikings running back who was drafted in the 6th round and weighs 180 pounds. Like there's hesitation, but there's intrigue. Stephen Claiborne had a fumbling issue in college. First time he puts the ball on the ground as RB3, well, he will ride in the pine. Yeah, that's true. Yep, there's not a lot of patience for a guy who is RB3. Joker, is this draft class pretty good or awesome? What does it mean for Rob Brzezinski? Should most credit go to the coaches? No, Rob Brzezinski deserves a ton of credit, because it was certainly Rob leaned on the coaches, but Rob was also heavily involved in the process of like deciding on Caleb Banks, of getting Ryan Nielsen down there to meet with him and spending a lot of time with the coaches and understanding what the path was going to be for those players to get to the field and what the coaches wanted. So Brzezinski ran it the right way. But yeah, I mean, when the coaches draft guys that they really want, it's easier to see the path to the field because that's what they're drafting them for, right? There's no perfect way to draft. What you want is the way that Nolan Teasley laid it out. And I think they did it this way with Brzezinski, where it's like, here's what the scouts think about these players. Now coaches explain how you're going to use them, explain the path to the field, and the coaches need to buy in. They need to buy in. You can't just draft random players. As much as that might actually work, the coaches need to believe in the players that they're drafting. And they need to believe in the person who's drafting them. And I think they believed in Rob Brzezinski. Son of Beavers, Vikings brought in a rookie quarterback for a workout yesterday. Derek Robertson. Is Max Brosmer in danger? I don't know. I mean, I think that you're always paying attention. And if Nolan Teasley that's the thing about this roster. Nolan Teasley is going to have different opinions than they had when they put a lot of these guys together. So he might look at a Max Brosmer and be like, no, guys, we just don't need to do this. Even if Kevin O'Connell likes him. And I think that Brosmer could be a Nick Mullins eventually. And that's good to have as a backup quarterback. Like, I think he could get there. But if Teasley just doesn't see any upside whatsoever and wants to try out other guys, then it's fine. It's a QB4. Joe, seems like they could split reps for a long time and still be pretty fake, though. Yeah, they could, but there is a point in camp where you just can't anymore. And that's what I'm talking about before. If you get into the preseason and you're still splitting reps 50-50, then it's been a competition. I mean, or it's a real competition. You could go now, if it only lasts until next week, then yeah, it was fake. If it only lasts until next week. That's funny. Christopher saw a comment on the Vikings YouTube presser for KOC and Teasley that said, ready for my heart to be broken again. Well, look, sometimes there's this like metaphysical crisis that people talk about with the Minnesota Vikings, but what I was thinking about today is football. I mean, this is the best. Yeah, it's often resulted in some pretty tough gut punches at the end of the day, but having it back at least in a practice capacity where we can really talk about stuff that's actually happening out there, that people are saying out there. We're not just making ranking lists every other night or whatever. Like, it's great. And when the night practice happens and I'll come home and do the pod from that. And when you get the preseason action, everybody's getting their first look at the Vikings. Like, it's great. Like, take every step in, appreciate it. Even if, Super Bowl might not be exactly something that comes around tomorrow. State of expectation. Oh, you're coming to the Dolphins game. That's good. Recommendations on restaurants. See, I'm a bad person to ask for this, and I don't mean to dismiss the question. It's just that, like, I'm the worst when it comes to food. And this is like part of my thing out there among the beat reporters, is that they make fun of me for how bad I am when it comes to restaurants and stuff. Murray's and Manny's are both great steakhouses downtown. Hell's Kitchen is a really good restaurant down there, but there's a lot. Like, whatever you're into, you can find it. Minneapolis is a great food city. So if you're a foodie, and go see the Stone Arch Bridge. Really nice. Son of Beavers, Taysom Hill is leaving the Saints. Does he go to Denver, LA, or the coach that loves to sign tight ends and Kevin O'Connell? Yeah, I saw that. I don't know. I mean, is there a place for him on this offense? Is there a role? Because he's going to want to go to a team that has kind of a role. Denver makes the most sense of somebody who could carve one out. Joker, 40 years. Purple Insider will still be ranking Sam Bradford as the #1 training camp on the live stream. Look, man, it was insane. It was just insane. It was against the #1 defense in the NFL. Sam Bradford was so good one day. Picture it. Was so good one day that Mike Zimmer, he jumped into Mike Zimmer to give him like one of those like outfielders do when their team wins, where they both kind of jump into each other and bump shoulders, and Zimmer went down to the ground with his bad eye and everything. And Zimmer was friggin' pumped about it. Mike Zimmer was jacked up about a quarterback. Now you tell me if it's the best. You tell me how the bar is going to be beaten there. Maybe, if they draft the next great quarterback someday, it will be. Kirk had good camps. I mean, Kirk was fine. And Darnold had a good camp. It's just like that one was next level. Everyone who I've ever asked has said the same thing. Magu? Sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. I have to wonder if the play calls today were to start testing things for each quarterback needed to work on. Could be. I think it's probably today would be one of those like, all right, we're back to school, and here is your pop quiz. Like, how much do you remember? You get back to school from the previous year, and they just give you like a refresh. That's what it looked like today. because it looked like both quarterbacks kind of knew what they were doing. Tony, how does Justin Jefferson look? He didn't do a lot today. Had a handful of reps, a couple of targets, but I mean, look, he looks great. Like Justin Jefferson is so powerful and fast and smooth, and he just is such a competitor, but you don't want to ramp it up too hard right now. So it looked fine. Son of Beavers. We are not talking any more about Diana Rosidi, man. I'm not getting any more into that. Joker, this should be the best ranked running year for KO because of Murray. Yeah, right. If he gains 500 yards, that'll help a lot. Absolutely. And also quarterbacks who are runners have found to have been useful when it comes to run success. Chris says, I think it could be good for the Vikings if JJ plays well in the preseason, set a high bar for Kyler. If Kyler even plays, I don't think that Kevin O'Connell wants Kyler Murray or whoever is the starter to play very much in the preseason. I just don't think he's ever going to be okay with that, because in his mind, that means you got to play everybody else, and he does not want to play everybody else. I know we're deep into this. I do want to answer a few more questions before. I also got to go right. PurpleInsider.football. I wrote a huge piece on Kyler Murray. It was well received, and I was very proud of it. So go check it out, PurpleInsider.football. Also, if you're new, welcome. I am so happy to have you. Hopefully you'll be here and subscribe and get us over 16,000 mark. And also the show has a couple sponsors that you're going to hear about all spring all summer long. And that is Brooklyn Betting, ZipRecruiter. They're going to be here with us. So let's talk a little bit about Brooklyn Betting at first. Look, I mean, 2026 for sleep was really rough for me until Brooklyn Betting came around and has been a total game changer. And that's why they're sponsoring the show, guys. The Aurora Lux mattress that we got is absolutely awesome. The spine was hurting, the lower back was hurting. Now feels great. And I can actually get to sleep and be ready for the next day of covering training camp practices. Also, I'm big on buying things that are going to last. Like, you don't want a mattress that lasts a couple weeks and then it turns into a hammock. These are, yes, cost effective, but also built with long-term durability and made right here in America. And also, we got exactly what we wanted in our build for the Aurora Lux mattress from Brooklyn Betting, and they can help you too. I mean, even hard to find sizes, they can do it, and we got exactly what we wanted. And if we decided in a month or two, just right now feeling it, if I don't expect that, but if we did, they have the 120-night comfort trial, so you can swap it or return the mattress. So it's been a life changer, and it can be for you too. Go to brooklynbetting.com and use the promo code PURPLE at checkout for 30% off. brooklynbetting.com and the promo code PURPLE. Now, ZipRecruiter. You always love when you are at a restaurant, somebody goes the extra mile. Hey, you know what? We spilled your drink, so we're going to give you a little bit off, or whatever, something like that. Or somebody working on your house. Hey, man, I saw that thing around the back that you needed taken care of, and I took care of it, right? So that's always great. And what you want, if you're a hiring manager, is people who are going to go the extra mile. So what you can do is try to figure that out with ZipRecruiter. Find the people who want to stand out from the others. So you could try it for free, ZipRecruiter.com/audio. And you can use their new feature that shows you the most interested and qualified candidates first, so you meet the right people faster, not just people randomly applying for a job. ZipRecruiter's powerful matching technology finds qualified candidates quickly and can tell you in their own words why they're interested in your job. And that's why ZipRecruiter is number one in terms of the number one rated hiring site. So try ZipRecruiter and meet great candidates who will go the extra step for your job. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try it for free today. ZipRecruiter.com/audio. That is ZipRecruiter.com/audio. Okay, let's try to roll here till 10. Give 15 more minutes. It's been a great day. It's been a great first run at the live stream for training camp. And again, if you're new to this, after every practice, we will do a live stream. Even if they do a walkthrough, we'll still find some stuff to talk about. But every practice, I'll answer questions every day. I'm going to come in with my reports. I'm going to come in with stuff for press conferences, stuff that I talk to players about after. And then I'll have a big report on everything I heard and saw out at the facility at PurpleInsider.football. So I'm all in. Chris, I think it could be good for the Vikings if JJ. Oh no, I read that about preseason. Yeah. Let's see. Rebuilding since 1961. Who would be your choice from the unsigned free agents if the Vikings sign an edge rusher? I would say for me, it's probably Leonard Floyd. And the main reason is just because Leonard Floyd has kind of always played in a system like this and was pretty good last year for Atlanta. Not great, but was fine and played a fair number of snaps. He would be the guy I'd be looking at if he still wants to play. Hassan Reddick is a little bit more of a wild card for me. He was great when he was with Philadelphia a few years back, but last year did not have a great season as a rotational player. So I would probably go Leonard Floyd. I know that there's talk. I didn't see if it was solidified today. I was busy, but you guys, if there's other things around the NFL, like when I have these training camp practices, it's really hard to keep track on what's going on for the other news. So if there's other news like that affects the Vikings, let me know because it's possible to miss stuff. But yeah, I don't know if Jadeveon Clowney, that's where I was going with that, has signed. I'm not hugely into that, and I always wonder why is it that no one ever wants Jadeveon Clowney despite good production. So Floyd would be the guy. Also, I wouldn't count out if Joey Bosa wants to play. Like he's more of a 4-3 guy. In fact, I think that's what he is now. But he's still good, still played well last year, but that would be a guy who's going to play a lot, I think. If you're looking for someone like Leonard Floyd, that's more of a rotational player. Von Miller could be the same thing, and he's got a connection to the Vikings in KOC. Joker, a lot of detailed positive comments about Blake Brandel today. Yeah, I think that people really like him. I think they really believe in him. I do. So I don't know how that's going to go, but you hear it from Brian O'Neill. You hear it from Donovan Jackson. I think they really believe in the intellectual part for him. He knows this offense inside and out. It's a huge deal. Steven Flores pretty much ran the 2026 draft. So if the class is good in year one, he might as well be up for another raise. Yeah. Look, you have to manage the board if you're Rob Brzezinski, and you use the coaches as the tool to set the board along with your scouts and stuff. So yeah, you could say that, but like they drafted guys who were fits for them. To me, it was like a common sense type of draft more than anything. Chris, was it JJ rookie year where Flores threw something at him and he turned and looked at KOC and even shrugged? Does that happen regularly in practice? I don't remember that happening exactly, but it might have been. Yeah, it does happen sometimes where Flores sends such a crazy blitz that everyone's like, what the heck, dude? And I think that at times, I think Kirk got annoyed. I honestly do think because the offense wants to get certain things done. Like they need to practice these plays. And Flores is not going to be on the other side all the time. But the reality is that he kind of is, though. Like now that everyone wants a piece of what Brian Flores is cooking. So I think that you're just going to see more and more of that stuff. Joker, after last year, we're all experts on mechanics, rhythm and timing and footwork. 1, 2, 3 balls in play. Hey, look, you can never say that you never learned anything from KOC. Him being an open book has been a great education for all of us. But also, we need to keep in mind too, and I try to do this when I'm out there covering it, is that I don't think that I can tell if JJ McCarthy's mechanics are better from watching camp. I really don't. The results I can, but can I really tell? Now, if the leg swing thing I came up again with Kyler, but I don't know, just seems stupid. If anyone's questioning the way Kyler throws the ball, that's just dumb. He's been in a lot of NFL games and thrown it really well. So that's silly. But it was an issue with McCarthy with the legs swinging around and stuff like that. That's not how they want him to throw the ball. So if he does that, I guess I'll be able to see it. But these things are happening. You have to understand, they're happening so fast, and we don't get all 22. It's like rep. I don't know. If he's throwing it better, I'll notice. Sean, what are the odds JJ wins the job as of right now? I've got about 5 to 10% right now. That can change. Give me 5 days. We'll keep an eye on the meter. But I still think it is heavily in the favor of Kyler Murray after one day. I don't think that the Vikings will be interested in Taysom Hill. I think they'd have to have a plan for him. Oh, okay. Okay, good. Yeah, you scared me there a little, AJ, when you said that the audio went out, because my phone, I used it so much today at practice. Usually I've got my phone over here so I could see and make sure I'm still on the air, and it died. Joker says, seems like the over-under should be 10.5. Is that like for the win total? I think that Vegas is fine. Like, and FanDuel is fine having it at 8.5. Just like wait and see. But our expectations don't have to be the Vegas over-under. Our expectations can be 10.5. The Bronze Solo has JJ put on any weight? That I don't know. I'm not really sure. He kind of looks the same to me as he did last year at this time, but he was still recovering. So maybe he looks a little bigger, but I can't really tell. How about no? Says, I'm one of the fans you mentioned earlier. Not going to get too excited before the regular season. Not that I'm not intrigued, just cautious. Yeah. I mean, there's like excited about football, but not necessarily going into the season believing your team's going to win the Super Bowl. I think that you can be on both sides of that. Intrigued for sure. The intrigue is extremely high with a quarterback situation like this. Joker, remember when Rob Brzezinski was our GM? Yeah, well, it wasn't that long ago. Purple Faithful, did KOC seem out of sorts in his press conference? I didn't think so. I thought he was, I thought he laid out everything perfectly fine with the quarterback situation, how it's going to be done, everything else. He seemed like he was pretty well prepared to come in and say those things and handle those questions. I didn't think so. I didn't think out of sorts. There was a moth in the room at one time. There was. It was a big giant moth, and it was like right over KOC. So I think maybe he saw some of us looking up at it. Like there's one point you could definitely find where he looks up, like he's like, what is everyone looking at? There's a moth. That's real reporting, folks. That's when you talk about behind the scenes, when you talk about insider, who else can tell you there was a moth at the press conference? That is a sign that we're closing in on the time to end the live stream. Steven, KOC may want to pursue a career in politics after his coaching career. Says, see, I disagree with this, Steven. You say he says a lot without saying anything. I disagree. I get a lot. Now, there are a lot of words sometimes, but I have learned a ton from KOC over the years. I feel like we get a lot out of the press conferences. Last year was like, I mean, you didn't need the microphone or the microscope to figure out a lot of the stuff that he was talking about. He gave us a whole education on quarterback mechanics and everything else. Like, I don't know. I'm not saying no NFL head coach could be a complete open book up there. And sometimes, yeah, you do have to redirect other questions and stuff. But I think over the years, like we've gotten very honest answers from Kevin O'Connell that have matched up with what they've done. So I don't know. I think it's because it's a lot of words sometimes, like because he really gives like a very full explanation and sometimes goes into other areas. So it'll be like talking about one, you'll ask about one player, he'll give the answer, but then it'll be like, oh, well, and then something else that comes to mind. But yeah, I don't know. I don't look at it that way. AJ paying close attention to Jalen Milroe this season. Yeah. A little intrigue there with Teasley. Joker Cooper Rush signed with the Falcons. He won't be breathing down McCarthy's neck. That's funny. Quick trip for the top restaurants in the Twin Cities. Also funny. I did see rating that the Vixen won the women's football championship. That's cool. My wife did a story on them one time when she was working in news radio. They were great. I'm a crazy man. Just what, for podcasting this long? No, I'm enjoying it. We're having a good conversation. The moth scoop. Yeah, I know. Nobody reported on the moth. They all kept the moth quiet. But you know what? I'm willing to say it. I saw this stuff in San Francisco where it's like this big conspiracy with Kyle Shanahan's car accident and stuff. And like these reporters are going to lose their credentials if they don't hide for the team or something. Like, man, that is the biggest misconception. The rules, literally the rules, Roger Goodell's rules are that people cannot be kicked off of their credentials in the Pro Football Writers Association for critical reporting on a team. So again, the rules. So anybody who says that, oh, they're just doing it to keep their credentials. No, the thing is that we try to have standards right? Like you try to have journalistic standards for stuff. And sometimes and we try to do the job in a professional manner. So sometimes that comes off as fans want you to yell at them or go after them in like some sort of crazed way that you've seen in some movie or something. I don't know. But anyway, none of that today. All very friendly out at TCO Performance Center. I didn't see any moths. There were a few bees. And I learned that Alec Lewis very nervous around bees. So I was explaining that if it's a yellow jacket, it's fine. But if it's a wasp, you really got to look out. So there's more insight that you'll never get anywhere else. Anyway, it was a great day. And I'm very excited to go forward. There will be another one of these tomorrow. And that is awesome as well. So we'll come in with new charts and new percentages and new breakdowns. And my notes app will be full of all sorts of stuff and a lot of great other things. So it's training camp, folks. And I am super excited about how many of you dropped in tonight. I hope that number keeps going up. And I hope we have epic conversations in the chat all summer long. It's going to be great. So I'm trying to be as best of a window into what's going out there at TCO Performance Center as I can. So anyway, thank you all for joining. Thank you all for participating. And we are off, folks. One of my favorite times of the year. Let's go football. Football.